Hey, thanks everybody for coming tonight. It's great to have this many people at a council meeting. So I want to welcome everybody to the January 27th, 2026 County Council regular session. So tonight's meeting is going to be in hybrid format. We'll have counselors, presenters, and public in person or on Zoom. Attendees can participate. Excuse me. You can use computers or other devices, participate virtually. So we'll have public comment at the beginning of the meeting on items that are not on the agenda. We'll also have public comment for each item. Generally, we allow 3 minutes for comments unless otherwise directed. And we'll be polling people on one item to see how many people will have commenting a little bit later. So virtual commenters should have their name on Zoom so they can be properly addressed. And the goal is to complete the meeting by 10 o'clock, and we'll be checking to see where we are at 9 o'clock to see if we can keep that goal in mind. So with that, we're on to item number 1, which is the opening and roll call. So I believe we have one counselor online, so we'll have to do a roll call tonight.
Counselor Hand. Here. Counselor Righty.
Here.
Counselor Cole.
Here.
Counselor Neil Clinton.
Here.
Counselor Rigor.
Here.
Counselor Haveman.
Here.
Counselor Herman.
Here.
All present with Counselor Haveman online.
Okay, let the record show all counselors are attending with one online. So with that, we're on to number 2, which if you're willing and able, please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So the next item is the statement regarding the closed session. Is there a counselor that's able to make that statement? Counselor Cole?
Following statement should be included in the minutes. The matters discussed in the closed sessions of County Council held on January 27th, 2026 that began at 4:00 p.m. was limited only to the topics specified in the notice of the closed session, and no action was taken on any matter in the closed session. We request that this statement be included in the meeting minutes.
Thank you, Counselor Cole. So now we're item number 4, which is public comment. This is for items that are not on the agenda. I know we have a lot of people in the room. I'm imagining most of you have comments for things that are on the agenda later. So if there's anybody that has comment for something not on the agenda, please come up and state your name and please limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Good evening, Council Chair and esteemed counselors. I sent you all a letter over the weekend and I'm just reading it tonight to make it part of the record. Okay, and I'm changing it a little bit because I did get some responses, so bear with me. I implore Los Alamos County to install streetlights on Diamond Drive along the golf course. It is a very dangerous stretch of road. Instead of spending millions of dollars to reconfigure our children's baseball and soccer fields and install AstroTurf, which I think is a bad idea, but at exorbitant cost, this money would be much better spent on making our community safer. About 6:40 p.m. on January 15th, I hit a deer. I'm the most careful driver I know, and I always go through that stretch of road slowly, watching for the deer. He was not there, then he was 2 inches from my front left bumper. There was absolutely nothing I could do. I am lucky, as it could have been so much worse. My airbags did not deploy. I think I would have probably lost control of my vehicle had that happened. And I kept complete control of my vehicle. According to Officer Wise of the Los Alamos Police Department, someone had already pulled him off the road a couple minutes after I hit him, and he was deceased. On Friday, I received an estimate from a shop in Santa Fe of over $4,800 for the repairs to my car and was told to expect that number to significantly increase. I will be without a car for 2 to 4 weeks once they start the repairs. Now I'm going to take a little break. Chairman Righty, you sent me a response to my email, and I just want to comment on that. Thank you so much for doing that. And county manager also sent me a response to give me some additional information. I had asked in my email about data, how many deer have been hit. And you sent me some data about that from August of 2024 through November of 2025. There were 68 deer accidents in town. Now that's all over the county, and it was kind of hard to tell on the data how many were on each road. But I think that there is something we could do on Diamond Drive. Maybe there's other things we could do on the other places as well, but Diamond Drive was the one that I was most concerned about. So I guess that's up. And then I said, please let me know if you'd like to discuss this topic further. It does sound like you all have already talked about this in the past several times. I'm just hoping that it's still on your radar a little bit, because this was just a really traumatic experience for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Linke. And yeah, we can't address items that aren't on the agenda directly. So
Can she just state her name for the
oh,
record?
Ms. Linke, you need to come back up. I was wondering if you'd state your name, but
No, I don't think I did. I'm Leslie Linke, and I live at 35 San Juan Street up on Bronco Mesa.
okay. Thanks for being here and making that comment. Okay. Do we have anybody else that has something not on the agenda? So Ms. Masson, can you check online to see you?
I can, Chair. If you'd like to make public comment, please use the raise hand feature. Chair, I'm not seeing any hands raised.
Okay, so I think we're on to item number 5, which is the approval of the agenda. Is there a counselor can make a motion regarding the agenda? Counselor Clark?
I move we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Counselor Cole, second by Counselor Neil Clinton. Any discussion? Not seeing any. So we'll have to do a roll call.
Counselor Rigor,
Yes.
Counselor Cole,
Yes.
Counselor Haveman,
Yes.
Counselor Herman,
Yes.
Counselor Ridey,
Yes.
Counselor Neil Clinton,
Yes.
Counselor Hand.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, thank you. Let the record show the motion passes unanimously. Okay, so item number 6 is a public comment for items on the consent agenda. So there's a number of items on the consent agenda. Typically, we don't get a lot of comment on those items, so I'm not seeing anyone in the chambers. Check online to make sure we have any comment there.
Chair, I'm not seeing any hands raised online.
Okay, now entertain a motion if there's a counselor interested in making a motion on the Counselor Nicklin.
I move that council approve the items on the consent agenda as presented and that the motions and the staff reports be included for the record. Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Counselor Neil Clinton and second by Counselor Herman. Any discussion? Okay, not seeing any. Can you please call the roll?
Counselor Haveman,
Yes.
Counselor Ridey,
Yes.
Counselor Hand,
Yes.
Counselor Cole,
Yes.
Counselor Rigor,
Yes.
Counselor Herman,
Yes.
Counselor Neil Clinton.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, let the record show the motion passes unanimously. So now we're on to public hearings. So we have one public hearing tonight. So item 8A, the item is RE 0669-26, Incorporated County of Los Alamos, resolution number 2603, resolution authorizing the county to submit an application to the Department of Finance Administration to participate in a local DBI grant and distribution program.
Chair Ridey, counselors, my name is Lauren Tomko. I am the new court program coordinator for Los Alamos County. As part of this role, I also serve as the DWI court program coordinator. We are requesting $40,531 from the Department of Finance and Administration through the LDWI grant. This funding is primarily used for treatment for DWI offenders as well as prevention and outreach programs. This annual resolution has played a critical role in supporting law enforcement efforts by enabling DWI checkpoints, saturation patrols, and shoulder taps. These preventative measures help keep our roadways safe. Through DWI funding, we have also been able to offer free sober community events, present educational programs and driver's ed classes, and bring the Arrive Alive tour to Los Alamos County, which simulates the dangers of distracted driving, driving while under the influence of alcohol and marijuana. Additionally, we help fund Senior Appreciation Night, providing our graduating seniors with safe, sober activities, keeping kids away from drugs and showing them that sober fun is possible. Our program maintains community presence by sharing information and resources at local events, such as our summer concert series, Science Fest, and the JJAB anniversary celebrations. All activities funded through DWI are required to be evidence-based or include data collected through surveys. We utilize electronic survey tools at our events and within our programs to help evaluate effectiveness and outcomes. This year, we're also participating in the New Mexico Community Survey, an anonymous survey conducted from February to April. This survey collects data on substance abuse patterns and substance use patterns, allowing us to track trends statewide and, more importantly, at the county level to better assess the impact of our prevention efforts. Thank you so much for your time. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, so thank you, Ms. Tomko. Does council have any technical or clarifying questions on the resolution? Councilor Cole?
I'm just curious, thank you for your presentation, by the way. How much did we receive last year?
Chair Righty, Councilor Cole, are you, just as a clarifying, asking for through the grant or through the grant and distribution?
Grant.
The grant, I believe, was close to 32,000, just under 32,000.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Cole. Any other? Not seeing any hands raised. So now we'll see if there's any public comment on this item. Not seeing anyone in the chambers. Is there anyone online, Ms. Besson?
I'll check. If you'd like to make public comment, please use the raise hand function. Chair, I'm not seeing any hands raised.
Okay, with that, I guess we'll see if there's a councilor interested in making a motion. Councilor Cole?
I move that council adopt Incorporated County of Los Alamos Resolution number 26-03, a resolution authorizing the county to submit an application to the Department of Finance and Administration, Local Government Division, to participate in the local DWI grant and distribution program. As part of the LWDI application, I further move that council approve the council chair to sign the MOU and statement of assurances.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Councilor Cole, second by Councilor Herman. Do we have any discussion? Okay, I'll just thank you for all the efforts and appreciate all the information we got. It's great that we had a bunch of people here tonight to hear what you had to say about the local DWI program.
Thank you.
Can clerk please call the roll?
Councilor Cole,
Yes.
Councilor Rigor,
Yes.
Councilor Hand,
Yes.
Councilor Haveman,
Yes.
Councilor Herman,
Yes.
Councilor Neil Clinton,
Yes.
Councilor Righty.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, let the record show the motion passes unanimously. So now we're on to, I believe, the item that a lot of people are here tonight for in person. Let's get to that item. So now we're on to 9, which is business. And 9A is item 20593-26, presentation and possible acceptance of the North Mesa Recreation Master Plan.
Good evening, Chair Roddy, Council. So we're back again to talk about the North Mesa Recreation Master Plan. We came to Council back on January the 13th, and the plan was introduced to you all. And during that meeting, South Site Southwest Consultants provided a comprehensive presentation covering the master plan, the processes that we went through, community engagement, and pretty much outlined that the community seems to be very supportive of the plan. And I think if you look out behind me tonight, you'll see some of that support sitting behind us. So we're really glad to see them in here tonight. I just want to talk quickly about just the plan itself. So although we're bringing this to you, the plan is formally asking for the acceptance tonight. As we all know, there is no formal funding that is tied to this project at this time. The implementation of the plan will occur over time. And during the time and based on the priorities, we will see what available funding is there as we go through our budgetary process each year. So that will really, all of that will hinge on what we have available as we go through our process to see what we can do in those phased areas, as we talked about at the meeting a couple of weeks ago. So tonight we have back with us again, it's the same two that were here, is Corinne Rogers and Bob Oberdorfer, and they're going to chat with you a little bit about the plan and hope that we can get your acceptance on it. Thank you.
All right. Good evening, counselors. Thank you for having us here again. Once again, we're really honored to be here in front of you all and in front of the community to present a culmination of nearly a year of planning, design, working with the community and the county to create the North Mesa Recreation Area Master Plan. Next. And so just a quick timeline, outline of tonight's presentation. We'll go through introduction, community engagement, how we got to the final concept design, costs and phasing, and questions. And so the North Mesa Recreation Area is an important recreational hub that sits at the intersection of schools, neighborhoods, and trail networks. And the North Mesa Master Plan works to build upon these community assets by improving these connections, while also listening to community residents, hearing their feedback, and building an area that serves a diverse set of users, as well as serves all ages. Next. And so I know we've done this multiple times, but briefly going through community engagement, we had over 250 people participate in these sessions. We had 2 listening sessions last March, a community workshop in April, and an open house and survey. These beginning listening sessions were to hear the goals and the needs of the community, what they envision in this space, and also what they value in this space, and taking those values forward in this process. We took those goals and needs, went into the community workshop where the community got together and designed their version of what they would like to see in the recreation area. And they worked together among different user groups and community groups to build something that represented all of them. And from there, we came up with 2 designs that went into the open house and survey where residents could view the designs, vote on them, give us their feedback. And in this process, we received over 190 responses that led to our final concept design. And I would also just like to note really quickly that this process has been going at the same time as 3 other plans that we have also been heading, the Trails and Open Space Management Plan, the turf study, and then of course the picnic grounds master plan. And we have all been involved in these plans. We have been talking together. So this has really been a cohesive effort and there's been communication. And next. All right, so we're going to go ahead into the final concept design, and I'm going to invite Bob up here to talk about what was culminated in these sessions.
Good evening. My intent was that since we just presented this a couple weeks ago, that I wouldn't go through point by point on this, but rather just kind of talk about the overall concept behind it. We did try and incorporate as many of the elements that people wanted to see in this area. So it covers a diverse batch of uses, and we also tried to balance between keeping open space that was out there that people are used to and providing the services that they would like to see in addition to that. And so, as Corinna mentioned, we, one of the comments that came up after we presented last time was the fact that there didn't seem to be any communication or tie together between the various plans that were going on that have been presented recently. And so, as Corinna mentioned, that we actually have been taking the lead on all three of those projects in addition to this one. And so, as the same team, we've been talking internally, and so we are aware of what needs to happen between the spaces in as far as we can, given that they are disparate spaces. But so yeah, that one, and then also I think there was a comment last week that someone thought this was a designated safe harbor, shelter in place area, and we did check subsequently with the police or the fire department, and we're told that there's not any kind of official designation like that. That it's not a safety gathering area or anything. And even if it were, I mean, there's nothing that's out there now that would preclude people from gathering there. It's still mostly open space. It's just developed open space. And so at that point, and the other last point was that we are aware that there have been subsequent comments coming in even after we presented last time for the working session. And as I mentioned earlier, we've tried to accommodate as many positions as we can that we're aware of on that, but there's nothing in this. This is a master plan. It's not, as Wendy said, there's not funding in place for it, and it's not set in stone literally. So there is opportunity to change down the road if priorities or desires of the community change, and it would be implemented in phases. So next slide. So on this one, the phasing priorities that we came up with based on, again, public feedback for the most part, the bike park and pump track skills area seemed to be the highest priority. And then in some combination of that, because that is in an area that's currently open space and that has a perimeter walking path, we would also improve that walking path because it's been deteriorated. It's a small 4-foot asphalt that's kind of crumbling in places and getting overgrown. So as part of the development of that, we would intend that the path get rehabilitated. In the meantime, the whole west half of the park would remain as open space. Then in the second phase, we'd actually do improvements to that west side to improve the habitats there. I know there have been a lot of comments about this being valuable open space and animal habitat and stuff, but frankly, it's all been bladed at some point from when it was FEMAville. It's been revegetated a little bit, but it's basically still flat open space, open land, not much in the way of trees or cover, which are all things that most animal habitats are beneficial for that. So we're trying to improve that on the west side of the main loop road that goes through there by creating some water harvesting areas that would provide for pollinator gardens, things like that, and then some enhanced trees, a little bit of terrain to give it something other than just the flat that's out there now. Third phase would be the sand volleyball and dog park improvements along the north side of the park and related pathways and driveways. The fourth phase would be dealing with the community gardens, expanding or improving what's out there. Fifth phase would be a multi-use pavilion, which covers, as we talked about last time, it gives a possibility for a wide range of uses in there, including covered basketball or rollerblading, or actually events that it could be rented out for private events. And associated with that, there's also proposed a food truck plaza, which could serve for events that are going on either there at the pavilion or in the bike park. And then the last thing we listed there that we gave a cost estimate for was just ongoing elements that could be fit in whenever there's time. They didn't have necessarily a priority, including the playgrounds and related amenities, overflow parking and things like that. Next. So this is the phasing map that shows those in order. So yellow is the highest priority at this point. Phase 2, the orange on the west side. Phase 3 would be the dog park. They're broken up a little bit, but the dog park in the north central and the overflow parking and volleyball in the northeast. And phase 4 would be the community gardens existing, and then possible expansion. And then phase 5 would be the pavilion and the more built aspects of the plan as it's proposed. Next. So costs related to those. As I mentioned last time, we were looking at about $3.5 million for phase 1, which includes not just the bike park, but all of the associated infrastructure improvements, a bike shed, new parking, asphalt paving, pathways and things like that. So phase 2 would be the west side landscaping improvements, habitat improvements, and then additional paths. And I think that includes a restroom over there too. Phase 3 would be the sand volleyball at 1.3 million. I haven't been giving numbers, but they're right there. So sand volleyball and dog park improvements. Phase 4 of the gardens is one of the better deals of it, only 800,000. And then for the pavilion and the food truck plaza, that's the big one at 4 million. And then another 1.3 million of miscellaneous improvements that could be done. Grand total, which would be phased out over many years, I'm sure would be 12.9 million based on current dollars and a 15% contingency for future increases. And I believe that is it. Yes. So at this point, we're open to questions or.
Okay, does council have any technical or clarifying questions? Not seeing any questions from council. Looking online. I did want to ask one thing that I didn't ask last time, which is about the CSD master plan. Also had done a survey of amenities, and you so you didn't directly cite that. You did your own outreach.
Correct.
But that even included the BMX track, which is no longer a project. So I was just curious about, did you look at the results of that and at all with regard to like the amenities?
I mean, we had reviewed it, but again, yeah, we did not rely
directly
heavily on
okay.
that because of the extensive public involvement
Okay.
as part of this.
Okay, so I think then we're ready for public comment. So before we have public comment, I think we have a lot of people in the room. So it's perfectly fine if everyone wants to make a comment. If people want to raise their hand, let me know how many people want to make a public comment, because we've already gotten several emails. But please, if you want to make a public comment tonight, let us know. And just a few people want to comment, or just maybe 10 or so. Looks like maybe. Okay. Got 12 or so, maybe 12. Okay. Yeah, please, we'll let everyone have up to 3 minutes. If somebody's made a point that you agree with, you can just let us know that. But yeah, let's go with up to 3 minutes and just come up here, and then we'll have time for people online too. So do we have hands raised? Okay. So let's go ahead and do that, and appreciate you coming, and just have to state your name and we'll get the timer going. And thanks.
Good evening, Greg Weiss, 186 Piedra Loop. Councilors, thank you for considering the North Mesa plan tonight. On behalf of the Los Alamos Tough Riders Mountain Biking Club, we have a lot of people in attendance tonight, and we're very much in support of the plan for a bike park on North Mesa. So we hope for your support. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for Mr. Weiss. Okay, anyone else? Just maybe if you can come up and be lined up so that we don't have a long time in between people. So whoever wants to go next.
Hi there, I'm Warren Hurley, 967 Sanqui Court up on North Mesa. And just wanted to let council to know I right around the corner from where I live, I use that open space on a daily basis. And I just wanted to voice my support for the plan and especially the bike park. I'm very much in support of it. So thank you.
Hi, councilors. My name is Grant Fox. I live at 70 Turquoise Street. I guess I want to say I was born and raised in Los Alamos, and like most townies, I left with the intention of never coming back to New Mexico. And by the time it was time to have kids, my wife and I thought, what is a better place to raise kids than Los Alamos? So we came back in about 2016. One of the great things about this place is access to the outdoors, access to all the sports outdoors. Mountain biking is kind of our family's choice of sport out here. And so it's just been very encouraging to see the way the county is building access to things for young kids, including mountain biking, the bike park, and this development. So I just wanted to voice that my support for this effort. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fox.
Hello, my name is Daniel Jackson. I live at 2028 45th Street. I'm voicing my support for this plan, especially as regard to the pavilion structure. Currently, when we play indoor volleyball, we routinely have between 30 and 40 people there. Imagine one court with 6 people per side. That takes a long time to actually get your chance to play. So having a larger indoor space that's not requiring the schools for us to be able to participate in would be very, very beneficial to us to be able to not only have our sport, but have more people play. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, Council. My name is Ashley Cannell. I live at 407 Bryce in White Rock. And I just wanted to add my appreciation of this project, of creating outdoor spaces for families in our community. And I also want to raise again, I play volleyball. I really appreciate it. It is difficult working through the school. And so we've had some conflict there, and I would like to raise, we would appreciate if we could have a county space to run county volleyball. And so part of that is I read the disposition of the Los Alamos School of Gymnastics article today. And if we could possibly look into acquiring that building that sits on county land for an indoor space for basketball, roller derby, volleyball, other indoor sports that we could use during the winter. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kendall.
Hello, I'm Lauren Cooper. I'm at 28 Timber Ridge Road. I'm voicing my support for the pavilion, and I'm with Los Alamos Derby. Derby's about family, both the one you're born into and the one that you choose. And I'm going to pass along this great inclusive sport for generations to enjoy and to share.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Cooper.
Hi, I'm Jordan Dugan. I actually live in Espanola, but I have been the head of training for Los Alamos Derby for a long time. I've been with the team for about 9 years. And I'm really in support of this pavilion. We struggle with practice space, especially in the winter when we don't have the ice rink. We do not have a space large enough through the schools that we can practice our sport. So this pavilion would be a great space, especially when we don't have the ice rink. Since that space is primarily for hockey, and with the shade structure, we're probably going to lose a couple months in our season there at the ice rink. Los Alamos has been a part of this community for a long time, and it would be really great for us to have a place to call our home, and to be able to bring Derby to town, have things for people to do on Friday and Saturday nights, and just bring this Derby community to Los Alamos. So yeah, if we could really, really get this pavilion going, that would be great.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Dugan.
I'm Michelle Carlson. I live at 2257 36th Street, and I am a captain of the Los Alamos Derby League. And I also grew up here. And we didn't have something like this when I grew up, but we actually have a juniors league as well. And we have people that drive up from Albuquerque and Taos for that juniors league because of how great this group really is. And they want to play for our league. So not only the adult league, but the juniors would be using this facility as well. So it would just be very important for them to have a space. And if I had had something like that when I was growing up here, it would have been truly wonderful. We have quite a few leagues in the state that we used to host when we were at Pueblo that would also benefit from us having this space. And I just wanted to put a my support for the pavilion and how important it would be to have a space not just for the adult league, but for the juniors league as well.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Krista Sawchuk. I am a lot owner at the North Mesa Stables, and I compete with my horse in the sport of endurance riding, a competitive sport where we travel trails anywhere between 25 and 100 miles in a day. So I use the trails a lot. As a trail user and an equestrian, I'd like to bring to your attention some concerns about the North Mesa Recreation Master Plan and how I'd like to see the county address those issues. The addition of a bike park on North Mesa will likely increase horse-bike interactions on the Quagga and surrounding trail systems. These interactions can be a source of fear and danger to horses and their riders. While most of the people that I've come across on the trails have been very courteous, I've also been placed in situations with bikes that have put myself and others in danger. And these have even led to falls and injuries. I believe these incidents are unintentional and preventable. These resulted from bikes going too fast around blind turns, not slowing down to pass, and being unaware of their surroundings because of wearing earbuds or just focusing on the trail ahead of them. Unfortunately for us equestrians, we don't have many options for trails to ride in elsewhere in Los Alamos County. The county says that 70% of trails allow for equestrian use, but in practice, this would require us to load a horse into a trailer, drive to another trailhead where we'd have to park on the side of a road or in a parking lot that isn't meant for trucks and trailers. We would then have to unload our horse into the street or into a parking lot and then saddle them up again in the street or in a parking lot, which is a dangerous situation for us to be in and probably isn't even legal. So if the county decides to proceed with this plan, given the lack of other trails that are horse accessible and an increase in bikes on the trails that we are allowed to ride on, I'd like to see the county take steps to increase awareness, education, and therefore safety for all groups. This can come in the form of signage, reminding users of the mixed use nature of the trails and proper trail etiquette. It can also come through education. So I've been talking with some really lovely people in the Tough Riders Club about coordinating a dual purpose clinic to teach bikers about how horses react to certain situations so they can be better informed when they come across horses on the trail, and also to help horses become more comfortable around bikes. This has given me a lot of hope because I will admit I am scared to ride on the trails, but I do anyway, because like the bikers, I really love to ride on our beautiful trails. So please, if you decide to move forward with this plan, please take steps to ensure everyone can enjoy the trails safely. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Lisa Reeder, 3217 Woodland, and I am now in your time zone. I was not the last time I made comment for you guys. The process, I will say again, was really great. The charrettes, the county meetings where everybody was there really did a lot to help people, the bikers and the equestrians in particular, get together and come to some reasonably good understandings. I have two personal issues with this and then one big one. I still would like to see the bike park part on the west side and not disturb the area that the Girl Scouts put back together after the Cerro Grande fire. And then my really big concern is about the phasing. And I did mention this the last time. We all feel there should be a bike park, a bike skills park, there's no question, and that it should be a high priority. But I still believe that the first priority should be to relocate and mitigate the negative impacts on the existing uses. So if you are going to put the bike park on the east side there, before that a shovel is put in there, the trails and natural areas, the walking paths should go first. Things that are already there should be mitigated and moved before a new amenity goes in. Also, on the costs, on the phase 2, what was listed on phase 2 on page 60, those costs don't mention any non-paved pathways. They just mention paved sidewalks. So I wasn't sure exactly where the non-paved pathways are there. The bigger picture for me is managing expectations. The projected cost for this entire project is 13 million, and that's of course if it gets done quickly. Otherwise, we know how costs skyrocket. The projected cost for the North Mesa artificial turf study and field realignment was 16 million, and that was just the North Mesa, not adding White Rock onto that. The North Mesa picnic area plan has yet to be determined. The cost for the Bio Canyon Trailhead redevelopment has not been determined. The Brewer Arena upgrade project is estimated at 3 million, and that's a task order. So we know that's going to be an up or down vote, I believe, at your next meeting. So that's likely to go through. And there's no master plan as yet for the equestrian park as a whole. So most members of the public would reasonably assume that should this plan pass tonight, the shovels would be in the ground as soon as possible. So who decides and how will the money be allocated for all of these projects and how are they prioritized? So thank you. This was a heavy lift. You guys are marvelous.
Thank you, Ms. Reeder.
Hello all, I live in White Rock and my name is Stacy Buck, but on the track I go by Rainbow Rex and I am one of their captains. I have been a part of the roller derby for almost 3 years and I have found a family within that community. And while I love that family fiercely, I think as a whole, we feel a little displaced, overlooked, and without a space to call our home. We are grateful for the spaces that we've been able to skate, but they are not reliable nor big enough for our needs. The rink is too unreliable to host games, and we have it for less than half of the year. The school gyms are significantly too small for even basic scrimmages, and we are consistently canceling practices due to weather, holidays, and many other factors. Unfortunately, we are at the mercy of the schools, and that hasn't always been the easiest. I'm hoping some of you have had the chance to see us play roller derby. And if you have, you've seen our strength, our passion, and the love that we have for the game. Los Alamos is known for its sportsmanship and care of every person that is on that track, leading us to being asked to bout with teams regularly every single year. Unfortunately, this year, there isn't a chance to see us in our hometown because we don't have a venue to host any games. There is something to be said about playing for the home advantage. Not only do we know our space well, but we have our community and our loved ones to cheer us on. Something that's going to be sorely missed this year. But not only does that home game help our team, it helps the town. A single game can easily bring in more folks into the town, but tournaments can bring in droves of people that can help the economy of our tiny mountain town. And as a small business owner in this town myself, I know how much that can mean. Restaurants, hotels, and shops will surely flourish with the amount of people that we bring with tournaments. There are 2 successful tournaments currently that are reoccurring every single year that could eventually become home to Los Alamos with this new plan. So please help Los Alamos Derby, as well as so many other great organizations that have come here tonight to find a home where we can actually grow our teams, our friends, and our chosen families and see all of them flourish. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My name is Brian Bonzer, 1926 Camino de Resnia. Moved to Los Alamos in 2012, take a job at the lab from Moab, Utah, where my older daughter had just been born 6 months prior. Believe it or not, I hadn't been on a mountain bike the whole time that I lived in Moab. It wasn't until I came to Los Alamos that I bought a bike and started out on the trails. And if you know Moab, Utah, you know that it's closely associated with mountain biking, among other things. So I was not the best biker when I started out down here. I just kind of hit the trails with my knowledge from the 70s and 80s growing up with scrap wood ramps and things that I learned on the mean streets of Iowa growing up. But anyway, so I wasn't the safest biker on these trails when I first got out there. I've gotten better since, but it's been from just hitting the trails and trying to learn as I go. I am here tonight with my younger daughter. Her name's Alicia. If you spend any time up at the ski hill, you might know her by her other helmet, the little girl with the pink helmet and the fluffy ears. So a lot of people, you wouldn't be alone. A lot of people have, both at work out in town, have said, "Oh, I know your daughter. I know who she is. I've seen her from the lift. She's amazing." So not here to talk about snowboarding tonight, but that's what she loves to do in the wintertime and most of the year, and that's our big family activity. It wasn't until maybe September, October that she joined the team, started mountain biking with us. And that was due to her classmate and his parents, Kyle and Turin, who help out with the Tough Tykes. I've been amazed by the progression that she's made over just the past few months, having other kids around and good coaches and a safe place to go and learn this stuff. And she's already progressing, just like with snowboarding, to the point where I can't teach her a whole lot anymore. Snowboarding, we've been going over to Red River, where they have a really good terrain park, and the progression she's shown there by having a similar type of facility where she can just learn through a progression of jumps and obstacles, learning how to navigate through them, get over them, and gaining confidence and strength and ability. I think it would be amazing to have a similar facility right here in town that riders could learn not only at a young age, but at an advanced age like myself, maybe just get some practice before we approach the trails and learn those skills, especially in a supportive environment, controlled environment, and then we don't end up running into equestrians and other traffic without the ability to keep ourselves and others around us safe. So appreciate your time, and please request whatever support we can get in getting a bike park is included in this plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Richard Dickman, and I just wanted to say that I support the bike park. My name is Tally Dickman, and I support a bike. My name is Amelie Ashley, and I'm just here to say that I'm here for the bike park.
Thanks, Holly. And I'm Ashley Pryor. I'm Amelie's mom, and I also am here for the bike park. And I'd like to say that I think it's just such a great amenity for the community. All ages can use it, and you don't need to be part of a team, although it'll accommodate teams. You could just go on your own. You could be part of a team. You could go at any time. It's just fabulous. It accommodates all abilities. Another thing that I was curious about, the question is if the North Mesa Recreation Master Plan includes consideration of the gymnasium that's there. That facility is fabulous, not currently being utilized and certainly ripe to be part of a North Mesa Recreation Master Plan. And so I recommend that it be integrated into some of these planning activities, and then also soliciting the community for what they would like to do, because it is a community asset existing that is certainly underutilized and was very valuable when it was in operation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Phoebe Sanderbeck, Los Alamos resident. I am the president of the board of directors for Los Alamos Derby. As a league, our main problem has been finding space to practice and play. So a space for us to do that on North Mesa would be monumental for our team and for our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Drew Hall. I'm a Santa Fe resident and a transplant from North Carolina. 4 years ago, I traveled over 1,700 miles by myself for a job, and I had no one. I had no family. I had no friends. I had the support of, thankfully, the internet. But Los Alamos Derby has become my chosen family and my chosen community. As such, I'd like to address the topic of community. We have talked about the significant economic impact of the existing roller derby community in New Mexico and the community in the Southwest at large. We could talk about the generational effects of recreational facilities for Los Alamos residents, present and future. But I want to talk about our sports teams, our clubs, having a safe space in Los Alamos to play, for organizations and families to share in a space to meet and enjoy each other's company, for birthday parties, roller derby bouts, bike riding collectives, sports, food truck vendors, to happen all year round for the Los Alamos community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Michelle and I live in White Rock. I've been skating with the Los Alamos Derby for 11 years and now I am a mom of a junior skater. I'm a cherry bomb mom. And I am here to support the pavilion. I just want to stress that roller derby is a full year sport. I know we've talked a lot about the ice rink and how important it is to us during the spring, summer, and fall, but it is a full year sport. The junior roller derby's competitive season follows the school year. They start in August and they wrap up around late May, early June. So that means right now, our incredible juniors are practicing and training for 3 separate tournaments before the end of the school year. They've got a lot of work to do. And unfortunately, we're in a very, very small gym where they are unable to play at full capacity. And we can't really practice full roller derby play in the small space. So having a full-size practice space in the months that we are not able to use the ice rink is very important to both the adults and juniors. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, people. I'm Felipe. I'm a North Mesa resident, and I'm in support of the whole process that you guys did. The whole thing, the bike park, the trails, the gardens, the pavilion for the roller derby team. My wife is a roller derby player, and this place is just getting her extremely hyped up today. She couldn't be here, so she's online right now. So I just want to make sure you guys understand. I know everybody's worried about, safety of pedestrians, safety of the equestrians, space for the gardens, space for the bike. This is the last place that we have for open space that we can do something good for the community. I personally want to raise my kids in a place like that we can go outside, explore, but I don't feel comfortable taking a young child to all our trails in town. As most of you guys been there, you understand that it's not as safe as a place that is catered by the county, that we can bring in and we can support, we can show our friends, our family that don't live here in Los Alamos or New Mexico for that matter, what we can achieve. So with that being said, I'm in completely full support of the whole North Mesa master plan. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Not seeing anyone in the room, but we'll go to the Zoom and see. We have a couple of people there, I think.
Yes, Chair, we have about 6, 7. Okay, it's growing. Let me just start at the top. Ms. Stacy Myers, you should be allowed to unmute. Please state your full name and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Hi, good evening. Am I being heard?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Good evening. I'm Stacy Myers, and I'm also a Los Alamos resident. I am currently one of the coaches for the Los Alamos Derby team, and I am the former tournament manager for the Rumble on the Rio tournament that was held in 2023 and 2024. And I tend to specialize in working with most of our roller derby teams throughout the state to put on large cooperative events. And my comment is in support of the whole complex, especially the pavilion. Los Alamos County has the opportunity to capitalize on this amazing community we have, not just in our county, but in the whole state. When we initiated the Rumble on the Rio tournament in 2023, it was housed in Taos. Now it's down in Albuquerque. And our first 2 years, each year, we brought 7 teams plus all of their support staff, all of their parents to the town of Taos. Every single person had to get a hotel room or an Airbnb, eat out at all the restaurants because we were all traveling. The same is going to be for Albuquerque. Our team will be playing in Albuquerque in June at that tournament. and we will be staying overnight. So just imagine the economic impact this one pavilion can have, not just by bringing in roller derby, as we've been talking about all evening. Volleyball can have its clinics, basketball can have clinics. And then in addition, Los Alamos is the one county in the state for roller derby that has the potential for year-round winter sports or winter exercises. A couple of years ago, we lost the use of the Pueblo complex, and we also lost, or our county lost, the what we call the Fall in Love with Roller Derby event. That event brought 50 people from outside the county to Pueblo complex for an entire weekend's worth of roller derby clinics, learning how to practice, and scrimmage games. So by affording this very small community in Los Alamos, our little team and our cherry bombs, who are way awesome and so amazing, the opportunity for a year-round facility, we're actually going to capitalize on the fact that our state has 4 adult teams and 1 juniors team, and as a state, we love coming to Los Alamos for this. So again, I express my support and gratitude for the consideration of this pavilion, and I thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Eli Cahill, you should be able to unmute. Please state your full name and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Okay, I'm unmuted. My name is Eli Cahill. I'm out of Albuquerque. I wanted to express my support for the master plan, specifically for the multi-use pavilion and making it a priority. I am a part of the roller derby community. I have been a roller derby official for 13 years. I am the officiating and safety head of Elevated Roller Derby in Albuquerque. And I have traveled as far east as Daytona Beach and as far west as Shanghai, China to officiate roller derby. And currently I am leadership for Sandia Spring Roll Junior Roller Derby Tournament, which some people have mentioned. And I am co-head for Rumble on the Rio roller derby tournament, the adult roller derby tournament, which will be held in June, that Stacy just mentioned. And it is being held in Albuquerque this year after being in Taos for 2 years. However, unfortunately, the venue in Taos caught on fire, so we had to find a new place. And finding an accessible place that allows roller skating inside, has bathrooms, has locker rooms, has electricity, has a roof that is 108 feet by 75 feet, has been a challenge in New Mexico. So having a space like this would be amazing. We could move both of these tournaments to Los Alamos if this pavilion happens. And based on previous years, they've mentioned that, we've seen large groups. Based on previous years, we're expecting 500 to 800 people coming to Albuquerque for each of these tournaments, between our participants, our volunteers, our spectators from around the US, including potentially Hawaii if they accept our invite. And I looked online real quick, found out that Los Alamos's population is about 13,500. So that means that we're increasing for the weekend, the town's population by about 4 to 6%. And so we're talking about people staying in hotels for 2 to 3 nights, eating out, general tourism if they're making a weekend of it. That's a significant financial benefit. And with this facility, we could also then start to take on a tournament format that's been successful in Colorado, where we have mini one-day tournaments, which would then bring 200 to 400 people in for a day, meaning that they're staying for at least 1 to 2 nights. So yeah, I see this being amazing. We love coming up to Los Alamos through the year to play and officiate. And I mean, as you can see through my level of travel, we're also pulling in people from all over the US. And yeah. So thank you so much for listening to me. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brittany, you should be able to unmute. Please state your full name and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Hi, Council. My name is Brittany St. Jacques, and I'm a resident of Los Alamos. My daughter and I both participate in roller derby here in Los Alamos. You've heard a lot about uh, all the activities we do, all the tournaments we host, the events we host. And I would like to reiterate those comments. Los Alamos Derby and Cherry Bombs host games with teams from across the Southwest. These are beyond just the state of New Mexico. Our biggest event is the Rumble on the Rio Roller Derby Tournament, New Mexico's first ever roller derby tournament, bringing hundreds of skaters, officials, and fans to the multi-day event. It was created by members of Los Alamos Derby and Los Alamos Cherry Bombs, but we couldn't host it here at home. We currently lack the infrastructure to host these matches and tournaments in Los Alamos, and this facility will offer the roller derby community a reliable and appropriately sized venue to resume hosting these events, giving an economic benefit to the county and boosting tourism. We appreciate your support of the North Mesa development.
Thank you.
Elizabeth, you should be able to unmute. Please state your full name and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Jomek. My derby name is Mama Wolf. I'm the board chair and parent of a skater for the Cherry Bombs Junior Roller Derby League, and I'm here in support of creating a covered practice space. Our program serves youth and from elementary through high school in the full contact sport, roller derby's full contact, and requires adequate space for safety. So our current indoor facilities are too small and the weather limits outdoor practice space. So in April, we have the spring roll, which has been mentioned. We're hosting national junior teams from Philadelphia, California, Texas, and Washington State. But the tournament is going to take place in Albuquerque due to space limitations. Our team is also planning on traveling to regionals in June, so we will be playing in Denver in June. And we would love to see more tournaments return to Los Alamos. So a covered space would support safe year-round training and allow Los Alamos to grow as a hub for youth sports and competition. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Nate, you should be able to unmute. State your full name and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Nathan Mayer. I'm a proud Tough Rider. I work at the Palrito on the trail crew, and I got to work with the lovely Los Alamos Bike Park Working Group. I just want to voice my support for the North Mesa Recreation Plan, and especially the bike park. It's been a wonderful process going through this, and one of the things that we really learned is how much we need this infrastructure to support our growing biking community. We did a community engagement survey results, and we show that really 87% of people surveyed, which over a wide demographic. So, equestrians, bikers, golfers, other trail users support having some sort of bike park infrastructure, and most of those people want it on North Mesa. So I think this is just a really wonderful and amazing opportunity to deliver for this large part of a community that doesn't have any dedicated resources. So thanks again, and please vote yes in support of the North Mesa plan, and that's all.
Thank you.
Anna, you should be able to unmute. Please state your full name and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Anna Alves, and I'm the Secretary of the Board of Directors of Los Alamos Derby. I just want to voice my support for the pavilion as well. I'd like to just make a couple of points that I don't think anybody has made yet. We know this is a big ask looking at the budget for this space, but Los Alamos Derby really needs a permanent home where we're not trying to squeeze in between primary users and where we have enough space to fully play our sport. I would like to ask that the building not be left until last. We were one of the main user groups from the beginning of this project, having representation at, I believe, every meeting. We play a full contact sport as adults, so some of us may not be playing in 10 to 20 years. If this building takes that long, we may not get to use it. And just, I'd also like to emphasize that we're asking for a space that has a skating floor of at least 75 feet by 108 feet. And we need a permanent indoor structure, not sort of an indoor-outdoor space as the name pavilion might evoke. Thank you so much for considering this, and please keep us in mind.
Thank you.
Carol, you should be able to unmute. Please state your full name and limit
Hi.
your comments to 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Carol Bronis. I'm on 1618 Camino Uva. I have a horse over at the state, well, 2 horses at the stables, and I really appreciate Southwest's efforts to make sure that this new plan does not impact the stables. So thank you for that. A couple concerns. One is I wish that the bike park was on the west side. That east area is used extensively by people that live in the area, and walking in nature is not the same as walking around a bike park. So it's the bike park is going to change the nature of that property for all of the people that currently walk there. And then my second comment is about the phasing of the whole project. First of all, I agree with Lisa Reeder that existing facilities need to be taken care of first. Throughout the county, we have a lot of facilities that are in need of various things. And then secondly, I think we need to look at this in light of especially all of the people that would like to have something suitable for the roller derby people. Maybe that needs to be up higher on the priority list. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hannah, you should be able to unmute. Please state your full name and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Hello, everybody. My name is Hannah Wilcox. I live in Pojoaque, but I was in White Rock and Los Alamos for years before I moved to Pojoaque. I've been in New Mexico for about 10 years, and about 5 years ago, I joined the roller derby team. And I know I can speak for a lot of people on my team when I say that I didn't find my community until I joined roller derby. And since I joined 5 years ago, we've been bounced around to multiple places and we haven't had a stable practice space. And I believe this impacts our team's stability because it's hard to plan your life around when you're going to go to practice when you don't know if there's going to be a practice. So I would just like to say that I'm in support of having a space for our roller derby team to practice more permanently and to host games and such as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, I think we have no other comments. So we did get a couple questions, and I think it's good to try to get answers to these. So one had to do with operational or just the conflicts between pedestrians and bikers. So that's not directly addressed in the plan, but that's something that's currently, I know we have ongoing efforts. And so can you maybe, I don't know, who wants to come up and talk to that a little bit since it came up a couple times.
Sure, Chair Ratty, Council. So I know there's definitely been conversations during the community engagement meetings that we had and trying to create, I think we heard one of the speakers tonight talk about coming together to create programs and just understanding of what equestrians' needs are as you're biking on the trails. We have also talked about putting signage up and different things that we can do in the county. But as we all know, signage is not always the best answer because a lot of people don't read the signs. And I can give you an example of North Mesa, which I think I've spoke about before. The signs that we put up on the athletic fields to please pick up after your dogs, they continue to be removed. So much so that we finally stopped repurchasing and putting those signs up. We don't know who's doing it, but they're removing them and throwing them in the dumpster. And sometimes they would set them by the dumpster, so we'd go put them back up. So I don't know that signage is always the best answer. I think education, which many people talked about tonight, probably would benefit us much more to be able to educate how the bike riders and also our equestrians can work together to have safe experiences on the trail system. I also believe the bike park, as you've heard tonight from many of our residents and even non-residents, having that bike park will afford them an opportunity to be in a safe place to teach their children to ride, as well as older adults to learn how to ride and do things in a safe environment that they can't do on the trails. So I think that's a great opportunity for them to be able to do those things in a safe environment. And Bob, do you have anything to add on that?
I was just going to say, I think that actually we were gratified to learn that during the course of the workshops that we did and stuff like that, we heard from a lot of people that that was really the first opportunity that they'd had to sit down with the opposing quote unquote user groups or the conflicting user groups and actually try and develop a way to accommodate both of those. And so I think that's a good first step in trying to reach the issues that are there. And as Wendy said, I think it's an educational program, which can start with the county, but there are also a lot of the mountain biking groups and whatnot have programs already in place that can be used and brought into play for that. So I agree that it is an issue, and I think that it's not something that's insolvable.
Okay, and then another thing that came up was phasing. So heard a lot of comments about that. So the plan there's no funding for any phase, but any phase could be done in any order. I mean, even if it's whatever number phase it is that correct? Just to clarify that for the public.
Chair Righty, Council, yes. So just to touch on the budget again. So these funds being requested, whether it be fiscal year 27, 28, 29, or whenever, those funds would be requested through our regular budgetary process. And those funds would be allocated by council in capital funding and or through some small cap programs. But certainly the phasing is something that can be adjusted. So I think Bob hit on it a little bit earlier. As our community changes and our needs are brought up during this process, we can make those adjustments. The master plan is something that can be adjusted throughout to make sure that we're hitting what is most important to residents. So if we need to move something up and council agrees and our community engagement meetings agree, then I think it's certainly something we can look at and then come back to council with what those funding needs would be and how we hit those phasing areas.
Okay, and then I think this question I think I can answer was who decides? I think it's the people up here, whoever's sitting up here at the time decides. So right now it's these people will be deciding coming in April, right?
Correct.
So, okay. So I think we've got all the questions answered. And so I think at this point, see if there's a counselor interested in making a motion. Councilor Hand?
Thank you, Chair. I move that council accept the North Mesa Recreation Master Plan as presented.
Second.
Okay, it's motion by Councilor Hand, second by Councilor Herman, I believe. Okay, any discussion? Ms. Clark?
I just want to thank everybody for showing up tonight. This is probably the biggest audience I've seen in a while. We really appreciate your comments and your interest in this. And I also do appreciate the amount of work that went into trying to come up with one plan for a bunch of different types of uses. I think you guys did a good job trying to accommodate all of the comments and the desires of a pretty diverse community. So I appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilor Cole. Any other comments? No, I'll there's someone in alumni. So yeah, thank you for coming. I hope that you'll think about coming when we talk about budget, because that's where this actually gets funded. I know I'm asking for maybe everyone to show up, but I'd really appreciate it if people would think about sending us comments when it comes down to the budget. What you see, the budget gets published the 30th of March online, and you can see what's on there. It's a long document, but the capital projects is a subset of that. This might be one of the things that's highlighted in the summary. So I think with that, we're ready for a vote.
Counselor Herman,
Yes.
Counselor Haveman,
Yes.
Counselor Cole, Counselor
Yes.
Rigor,
Yes.
Counselor Neil Clinton,
Yes.
Counselor Rowdy,
Yes.
and Counselor Hand.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay. Let the record show the motion passes unanimously. And again, thank you all for being here. There's no need to stay for the rest of the items unless you're interested in them, but you're welcome to. So while people are filing out, I think we can get ready for the next item. I think people will be able to hear me online. So 9B, item 20737-26, presentation and possible approval of high intensity activated crosswalk HOC signal on NM4.
Wait.
Yeah, we'll take a brief pause. Or you can raise the podium up while you're waiting. Okay, I think you're probably okay now.
Okay, good evening, councillors. My name's Keith Wilson. I'm the deputy county, not county manager. Oh, I promote myself. There you go, public works director. So here just to give you a quick overview of the NM4 crossing multi-use trail improvement project and the Pinion School Trail project, and then just with the ultimate action requesting the approval of the HOC signal that we're proposing across NM4. Next slide, Linda. So this project dates back a few years when I was a project manager within the engineering department. Since my promotion, I've handed the bulk of the project off to John Strickland, who's somewhere back there, who's the engineering project manager, and also here in the engineering division is Eric Ulibarri. Next slide. So a quick overview of what I'm going to rush through in a timely manner, but in an understandable manner, hopefully. I'll give you a quick overview of the project history, then the project overview, the public outreach that we've done over the last couple of years related to this project. I'll get into some more detail about the HOC signal and why we're placing it where we're placing it. And then part of the project is looking at doing a lane reduction and placing the trail on the roadway. So I'll discuss that. Finally related to the project is just a couple of highlights of the project design, then go to the recommendations and then the requested action, next steps, and then questions and feedback at the end. Next slide, please. So as I said, this project kind of dates back. Kind of what instigated us getting to this project was first the Mirador subdivision was approved in April of 2018. This is the parcel on the north side of NM4, basically between Sherwood and Parajito Road into Llano. That project at the time is 161 lots. Round about now, about 80% of those lots are now constructed. Subsequent to that, in 2020, a mixed-use development was approved at the corner, basically down by the Sherwood intersection. And then also going on round about that time was the downtown or town centre White Rock master planning process. Throughout all of those processes, there was a continued theme about how we could integrate the Mirador subdivision and mixed-use developments into the town site, into the White Rock downtown area, and with NM4 seen as kind of a barrier to easily doing that. So in 2021, the New Mexico DOT put out a call for projects for federal alternative transportation program funding. And so we thought this was an opportunity to see if we could scope out a project, if we could obtain that federal funding to try and help resolve the situation about trying to pull the Mirador subdivision into the White Rock community. So we basically scoped out a project. So basically the main focus of the project was how do we cross NM4? initial, we did look at the feasibility of doing a grade separated crossing either through a tunnel or a bridge structure. On the south side of NM4 in that area, it looks like a bridge structure would be an ideal fit because you've got a pretty high embankment on one side, but on the other side you don't. So that relatively quickly fell out. One, because there's a lot of basalt in that area. There's a lot of significant utilities on the south side. Placing a bridge would mean we'd have 300 or 400 foot ramps required on the north side of NM4, creating a big visual impact for those residents there. A tunnel wouldn't be feasible. One, the grades didn't work. Two, the utilities. Three, again, the basalt. You'll hear a continuing theme about the basalt. I guess that's why White Rock's called White Rock. So the ultimate scoping was looking at an at-grade crossing of NM4, and typically a mid-block crossing is much safer location than a intersection crossing for these types of facilities. In consultation with DOT staff, we identified potential enhanced crossing in that location, which could be what we're talking about tonight, the Hawk or pedestrian hybrid beacon, or the rectangular rapid flashing beacon type things that you see over on the NM 502 as you come into town. So those were kind of hanging out there to be worked out if we got the grant. And also part of the project was looking at the section of NM4 through there, which currently has 2 lanes in the westbound direction. So through some data collection, we found that that section of road wasn't being fully utilized. So we're proposing creating the trail within the road section. So that was kind of the scope we initially went off. If you look at the diagram on the right, kind of shows in yellow, the trail section. We also looked at adding some new trail within Pinion Park and then reconstructing existing trails within the park to make that connectivity into the downtown White Rock to the amenities within Pinion Park, and then connecting some of the existing neighborhoods on Sierra Vista. And then also kind of the main crux of the project was, and this is, trying to bolster your project so you make it attractive for DOT to select, was creating that connection to Pinion School. There's about 40 Pinion students who live in the Mirador subdivision right now. And they're bused to Pinion because there currently isn't a safe way to get to the school. I will add, Pinion has a really strong bike and ped culture there. We went, I think, in May, over 100 students biked and walked to school on Bike and Roll Today school. So it's got a really strong culture. So we're confident if we build this project, it will be utilized. So in September of 2021, we came to council and asked for a resolution of directing staff to apply for the grant. May of 2022, we were awarded the funding for the design and construction of the NM4 project. And there was a delay in when that funding became available, but the design process started in 2024. We hired BHI engineers to do the design work for us. Subsequent to that, in the time frame, the Pinion's elementary school started construction. They had finalized their designs, and there was an existing trail along the western boundary of the school, and the school department were willing to make that available for public access. So we were looking to add that section to the project. In 2025, we did start the design process. We had a subsequent call for projects. We were able to get construction funding for that project. And then we worked with the schools through coordinating with CSD, who will ultimately maintain this trail system, to obtain an easement for that trail along the western side of the Pinion School. Next slide. Project overview. So I mentioned we got federal funding for both the Pinion and the NM4 projects. Excuse me. And the elements of the project reconstruct of the multi-use trail along the eastbound side, which is the south side of NM4, which is existing, and then implement an enhanced mid-block crossing. lane reduction and placing a trail on the north side of NM4, reconstruction of trails within the Pinon Park, and construct a new trail along the western side of Pinon Park, basically by the Baptist Church, to make that direct connection over to Pinon School. We did coordinate with the CSD on the Rocket Park renovation, so our project will tie in with theirs seamlessly. We'll have drainage improvements. And then, as I mentioned, reconstructing the trail that connects along the western side of Pinon Trail to provide a connection to Grand Canyon, further expanding the connectivity of this project. Next slide. So this is just a quick picture of some of the existing trail within Pinon Park. I think they're about 30 years old. They're in pretty poor condition, and we'll be upgrading these either with the initial project. I'll be bidding a lot of this for asphalt, but we will be doing a bid alt. So if we can afford it, we'd like to do them concrete. We are that bridge structure, that wooden bridge structure is just to the south of the splash pad. We'll be putting in a better crossing of that arroyo in that location as part of the project. Next slide. So public outreach. Our initial outreach began in December of 2024, where as part of a T-Board, Transportation Board meeting, we held a public input meeting and presented our initial thoughts on the project. Meeting was well attended. It was down in White Rock at Fire Station 3. We received some really great engagement from the public who showed up in both support and expressing concerns about the project. They, through the T-Board, gave us some homework to go away and look at things again and come back, which I'll get into more in future slides. We did go to the Parks and Recreation Board and do a presentation there because we're obviously impacting Pinon Park. We came back in February 2025 and presented an update on the elements that we were asked to reevaluate, and I'll get into that in a future slide. We did, as back in March in 2025, the county had some open houses that were open to the public, just highlighting all the projects. We had a booth there for that project. We did present to the Arts and Public Places Advisory Board, because part of the project we have to move one of the prehistoric Pueblo pots, which ultimately came to you guys for approval. We did meet with some of the residents of Sierra Vista neighborhood who wanted to discuss some of their concerns about the trail along the school and various things. That was a very productive meeting. And then more recently, we came back in November of 2025 to give an updated presentation to the T-Board. Next slide. So focusing in on what we're the bulk of the project and what we're talking about tonight. So the initial piece I'm going to talk about is the section of New Mexico 4 between Sherwood Boulevard and La Vista Drive. This is about a 1,600-foot section of roadway. Current speed limit's 45 miles an hour in this segment. And there's 2 lanes in the westbound direction, which is going from right to left on the screen, and then 1 lane going in the eastbound direction, which goes up that direction. So this is kind of the area we're focusing in. The proposed mid-block crossing location for the Hawk is about 550 feet east of La Vista, just to the east of the Baptist Church. And then on the north side of NM4, we're looking to reallocate the road space freed up by doing the lane reduction for the trail. Next slide. So if you're unfamiliar with what the Hawk signal is, I'll just give you a brief overview. Hawk signals are also referred to as pedestrian hybrid beacons, but basically it's a pedestrian signal. It's why we're not doing a full traffic signal at this location. They have much higher thresholds for pedestrian volumes. Pedestrian hybrid beacons or the Hawk signal have much lower thresholds. And this is also a federal highway proven safety countermeasure for this type of application. So basically it's a 3-headed signal, 2 red balls, signals, and 1 amber. The signal remains dark when it's not in use. When a pedestrian comes and pushes the button, the amber light or the yellow light starts flashing, then goes to a solid yellow and then to 2 solid reds. During these times, the don't walk is shown to the pedestrians, and then once it gets to the red signal, then the pedestrian walk signal goes. When it gets to the flashing don't walk, then the 2 red lights kind of wigwag. What's called wigwag, kind of like a railroad crossing, but not a railroad crossing. We're at a traffic signal. Drivers are supposed to stop and then can proceed if there's no pedestrians at that point. And then it goes back to dark after the pedestrian phase is completed. Next slide. So at the original Transportation Board public input meeting, there was a lot of requests for placing the crossing at La Vista Drive. I'll take a step back. As part of the mixed-use development for the Mirador, a traffic signal was required at the Sherwood Boulevard intersection, but it can't be installed until the mixed-use development generates the traffic that's needed to allow it to be installed. When we scoped out this project, we scoped it out assuming that traffic signal was going to be installed. So this project is complementary to, not in case of or instead of. So just so you know, that's why we're not focusing on that intersection. So they asked us to look at, could we put the pedestrian hybrid beacon at La Vista? And so if you want to jump to the next slide. So part of our evaluation of this, so this diagram basically is showing you a typical four-legged intersection with stop controls on the north and south, like La Vista is. And it shows you all the potential conflict points for motor vehicles and for pedestrians. So from a motor vehicle standpoint, you've got a total of 36 potential conflict points, some crossing, some merging, some diverging. But kind of what this illustrates is, as a driver, all the different things you have to be looking at when you're making that turn from the side streets or even going through the intersection. And then added to that, you've got to be looking for pedestrians. So there's if all 4 legs of the intersection are crossed by pedestrians, there's potential 24 conflict points with those pedestrians too. And then as a pedestrian, you've got potential 24. So that's what this kind of just showing what drivers and pedestrians have to deal with at an intersection. Next slide. So this is, excuse me, just if we were to put the hawk signal at this intersection, the hawk does not cover the whole intersection. It just covers the leg that you're placing the crossing. So in this instance, drivers at the intersection would still have the 36 potential conflicts because they're still having to deal with all the conflicts. So they've got their brains and attention going everywhere. But crossing one leg, and then we've got 6 potential pedestrian vehicle conflict points if in the hawk crossing. At this particular location, we don't have the ability to create a median in the middle of the road where we can split up the pedestrian crossing. So when the lights are activated, you'd have to account for a full crossing of the full length of the roadway, which would increase potential delays to drivers, but it also increases the exposure time for pedestrians crossing the road, the amount of time that they could be in potential conflict with a turning vehicle. The other disadvantage of putting a hawk signal at an intersection is the side streets. La Vista wouldn't necessarily be able to see those signal heads and know when they're activated and to red. So a vehicle making a left turn from La Vista on the north or a right turn from La Vista on the south could be making those turns because they see traffic stop for the signal, but not anticipating that pedestrians are maybe crossing at that time. In this location, the crossing distance would be about 67 feet. From an ADA standpoint, we typically think about 3.5 feet per second for a pedestrian walking across the street. So that's about 19 seconds it would take a pedestrian to get from one side to the other, walking at that speed. Next slide. So then when we look at the a crossing at the mid-block location. It's a much more simplified location. Basically, there's no conflict points for vehicles. All they are looking at is the roadway in front of them and the crosswalk and the signal. Pedestrians, they only have that one conflict. They're dealing with one vehicle coming from one direction or multiple vehicles coming from one direction. Because it's one lane, you know, if a vehicle stops, everyone else stops behind them. Also in this location, we have a median, so we can split up the crossing. So a pedestrian pushing the button is only crossing that 20 feet, minimal 6-second exposure out in the roadway before they get to a median, then they push the button again. Making a two-phase crossing allows us to minimize the delays to vehicles as well. So when people are crossing the westbound direction, we don't have to stop traffic until they get to the median and push the button. And when they're crossing the eastbound direction, we can let the westbound traffic go. So it makes a far more efficient location, not only for pedestrians and safer, but from a delay standpoint. And when the signal eventually goes in at Sherwood, we can actually work on coordinating those signals so that we don't necessarily get to a point where someone gets the green light at Sherwood and then they're stopped at this crossing, if that's going to be an issue. So we can coordinate those things. Next slide. So in evaluating these two locations, one of the things that we kind of also looked at was about 2/3 of the Mirador subdivision. The housing in there has relatively easy access to the La Vista Drive intersection. And then the major destinations are Pinon Park, downtown White Rock, and Pinon School. So the general flows and most flows are going to go to that kind of southeast direction or northwest direction, back and forward. When looking at the NM4 La Vista intersection, the pro is if we put the crossing at La Vista, then it makes it convenient for all destinations. So if someone wants to go to La Vista or north and south or to the west on the trail, then it's convenient location. But then that comes at potential cons of increased pedestrian exposure to potential conflicts with vehicles. It's a complex decision-making location for not just the drivers, but also the pedestrians. More complex, make it less safe, and then longer delays for motor vehicles. At the mid-lock crossing, the pros are, we minimize the pedestrian exposure to conflicts with vehicles. It's simplified decision-making for all users. Less conflict means safer, shorter delays, and then it is a convenient route for the majority of destinations. This con is it's less convenient for all destinations. So our recommendation was to continue forward with the mid-block location. Next slide. The other piece we were asked to evaluate or reevaluate was, do we really need to do the lane reduction? Can we not put the trail in the big area off the side of NM4? So basically what this diagram is trying to show is what does NM4 look, not just in this area, but to the wider. So starting on the right of the screen, from the truck route to downtown, basically to Sherwood Boulevard, it's one lane in each direction, NM4 is. It then widens in the westbound lane, westbound side only, to 2 lanes at Sherwood to Parajito, and then it goes back to 2 lanes in each other direction. Essentially, from what I've been told, the 2 lanes, basically NM4 used to be 4 lanes all through town. 20 years ago or less, it was reconstructed. The 2 lanes was just kind of left from Sherwood to the west. And so there was no necessarily a reason for why it was maintained as 2 lanes. Next slide. So this is just a quick diagram showing the existing configuration. As I say, on the right side of the screen, you've got a driving lane, then the bike lane, then there's a buffer, and then the existing trail. On the left-hand side, you've got the two westbound lanes and then a bike lane and then basically the wide swath. Next slide. So what we did was on a couple of occasions, prior to doing the initial grant submittal, and then as part of this project, once we got into the design phase, we placed traffic counters, one in each lane. So one in the right lane, one in the left. And essentially what it confirmed was that this roadway is essentially being driven as a single lane. During the morning peak period, which is predominantly when the bulk of the traffic travels on NM4 in this location, between 95 or 98% of that traffic is traveling in that rightmost lane. As you go through the rest of the day, it's kind of like a 50-50, but the volumes are minimal, and it's probably more driven by, are they making a left turn at La Vista or continuing through towards Bandelier. So that's essentially what this is showing. The light blue line is the left lane westbound, the dark blue line is the right lane, and then the dotted red is the kind of the total volume. Next slide. I think this is the video one, Linda. So as part of our reevaluation, one of the suggestions at T-Board was, could we do an experimentation, i.e. block off one of the lanes and see what happens? And we said, well, based on the traffic count data, we don't really need to do that because we know what happens, because it happens every day without blocking off one of the lanes. So we set up a video camera for the day. And this is just a real quick representation of what happens during that morning peak time. In this instance, we've got a slower moving bus. You know, if people were in a rush or needed to, they could overtake it, but we don't see that. We just see the traffic all staying in that rightmost lane. And why is this? Because the bulk of that traffic is taking a right into the lab property. So that's basically, you know, a quick representation just so you can see what the traffic count data we collected was basically showing here. I think that's enough, Linda. So next slide, when we get back to it. So our piece of looking at the lane reduction was, could we put the trail in the buffer area off the north side of NM4? And technically we could. There's a lot of utilities and some very significant utilities in that area, but there is kind of a corridor where there's minimal utility conflicts. We couldn't place the trail right next to the curb because that's where the bulk of the drainage from NM4 runs down. So to change that would take some significant infrastructure. What we would, if we did put it there, we would have to do a bunch of grading, some cuts, what's termed cuts and fills. So where we have to cut into the ground and where we have to fill areas to make that section of trail ADA compliant. And particularly where, if we were tying into that mid-block location, we'd have to do some additional cut and fill. As I mentioned back in the beginning, basalt rears its head quite a few times through this. And so if all those in White Rock or up here who have seen what's going on at the Mirador parcel, Pignon School, when we did drainage work, putting a new drain in Sherwood, we encounter basalt. We've also done cores in these areas, and we find that the basalt and a lot of this area is very shallow. It's very close to the surface. So we really want to try and avoid, and that can come at an unknown, and it's very hard and very expensive to excavate. And then we also did a quick cost calculation, and creating that new trail on that location was about 5 times more expensive than reutilizing the existing roadway. So we did look at it and in some detail, and that was the conclusion. Next slide. So looking at the summary of what I just talked to you about. So doing the westbound lane reduction, it allows the trail to utilize the roadway, reducing construction costs. As I mentioned, the speed limit right now is 45. The speed data we got, depending on the time of day, is mid 40 mile an hour, pretty good. Compliance, off-peak times when traffic volume is low, we see some spiking of that. With this lane reduction, DOT is supportive of us reducing the speed limit on that segment to 35 mile an hour. It improves the safety at the mid-block location because instead of having 2 lanes, we'll only be having 1 lane. And one of the big questions was, are our public safety folks on board with this? We did reach out to the police department and also the fire marshal on 2 separate occasions, and they expressed no concerns with our proposed lane reduction and the cross section we're putting in with that. The only one real con with the lane reduction is potentially if there's a slow moving truck climbing up that hill, you may get stuck behind it. There really isn't a lot of truck traffic. All the truck traffic going into the lab has to go up the truck route because they have to go through the security. Being out there, occasionally there's concrete trucks. There's really nothing west of Parahito Road that's going to generate a lot of truck traffic. So that's not a major concern. And then when we looked at the North Side Trail and the buffer area, the pro is, you create a nice trail that's buffered from the roadway. But it is 5 times more cost, and then there's some cost construction unknowns related to the basalt. So our recommendation was to continue with the westbound lane reduction and placing the trail within the NM4 roadway. Next slide. So this is kind of the proposed cross section, focusing on that westbound lane. So basically, it would match what's on the opposite side, with the exception of we'll be placing. You want to do the next slide? We're in that red circle, placing a small curb to separate the trail from the roadway. And we do create somewhat of a buffer from vehicle traffic. There'll be about 11-foot distance between the travel lane and that trail. And so that's kind of what's shown there. Next slide. And this is, so we'll be placing an 18-inch by 18-inch curb in that kind of buffer area to separate the vehicle lanes from the trail. This is been used quite extensively in a lot of bike lanes, separated bike lanes throughout the nation. So it's got a pretty good track record. Next slide. And then just quickly discussing some of the design elements. So on the bottom left kind of shows you the cross section with the Hawk signal. We will be placing the mast arms for the Hawk signal within the median. And there'll be a push button on either side of the road. So as I mentioned before, it's kind of a 2-stage crossing. And then on the right, one of the things that we tried to work through, but the existing trail alignment with that big mound and then a steep grade down, there was no way for us to make that ADA compliant. Current grades are about 11% on that section. Without blasting out that hill, there was no way to make it. But we were able to find a pathway. So basically, the diagram on the bottom right, there's a retaining wall around that section. Basically at the bottom of the hill, we were able to put the trail through that section. There'll be a railing on top of the, on top of that wall. And this was what necessitated us requesting to move the prehistoric pot, which we found a nice location at the intersection of the trail by the Hawk signal. And then next slide, just a quick slide on the Pinon School Trail. So there is an existing asphalt trails in a worse condition than the Pinon Park trails. School's already implemented their fence along that side, so it designates the area. And right now it doesn't connect to Grand Canyon, but we will be making that connection to Grand Canyon. Next slide. So the recommendations that we made were supported by the Transportation Board at the February 6th, 2025 meeting. They made a recommendation to proceed with the plans as the design as presented, and also supported moving forward on the auxiliary trail, what was called the auxiliary trail to Pinion Park along Pinion School. They also further recommended that staff continues to reevaluate the traffic signal at Sherwood and NM4, which we did more recently after the November meeting. We went out and collected some updated traffic count data at La Vista and Sherwood Boulevard. We ran those numbers through the traffic signal warrants and found that they still did not meet warrants based on existing conditions. We also looked at pedestrian volumes because one resident had raised the issue about potentially school kids crossing Sherwood to get to the atomic transit service to get to school. That data was not supported by the video counts that we conducted, and also review of the atomic transit ridership numbers. Plus, the schools provide busing from Mirador to the middle school and high school through school busing. So we couldn't make that argument to make it warranted from a school crossing standpoint. So our request tonight is within section 38-191 of the county code, any installation of a new traffic signal needs a county council approval. So that's what the primary reason we're here tonight is, to ask for your approval to place the Hawk signal at the mid-block crossing across the NM4. Next slide. Because we're working within the DOT's right of way, whenever with these types of projects, they want to enter into a maintenance agreement with the county, which basically clarifies who's going to maintain what pieces of infrastructure. Traffic signals, there's always an agreement for the county to take over maintenance of the traffic signals or street lighting. And in this case, we'll also probably be asked to maintain that curbing that we're putting in and anything of the trails on either side. We haven't yet seen the final language of that maintenance agreement. We're waiting for DOT to give it. So we'll be coming back to council at a future date once we've had an opportunity to review that maintenance agreement, asking for your approval for that maintenance agreement. So hopefully that's going to occur in February. We've got one more step with DOT for them to review the final design plans, make sure everything's in order, there's a bunch of certifications, environmental and things like that. So we should be taking care of that in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Following that, the funding for construction gets obligated, and then we can advertise. So we're hoping to get both projects. We're going to combine them into one and advertise them March. So we should be back here April, May timeframe, hopefully to ask council to award the contract. If that all goes to plan, around about June, we expect construction to start. Depending on who the contractor is, how they want to phase it, it could go relatively quickly or it could take about a year. So probably next spring, summer timeframe, 2027 would be when the project would be completed. Next slide. Yes, there is the questions. Phew. So hopefully I didn't take too long or overwhelm you with information, but I'm here to take any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wilson, for the detailed presentation. And we have any Councilor Nicholson?
I actually have a comment. Thank you, Deputy Martinez and Director Martinez and Deputy Wilson. I appreciate the thoroughness. I also appreciate your looking at the myriad of variables so that we can say that this was a comprehensive report. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Councilor Nicholson. Any, Councilor Herman?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the very detailed report. Question about the Mirador mixed use and that light. Do you have any idea when they're going to start building that mixed use area there and then the subsequent light after that?
So we did reach out to the developer this week to get an update. They are working on a new finance package. I guess the way the economy went, they're financing didn't work out, and then construction costs kind of went through the roof. So what they indicated to us, they're working on a new finance package, and if all goes well, they're expecting potentially in the next year they could be starting construction.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Herman. Councilor Culp?
A couple questions, and maybe maybe you've mentioned this, but is the hawk temporary when the Sherwood light is installed?
No,
it's
it will
permanent.
remain. Yes.
Okay. There was also a concern, I believe, that was raised previously by someone in the public about the backup of traffic if we install, one or two lights and blocking the fire station entrance potentially. Was that looked at all?
So I think the concern was if when we reduce from 2 lanes to 1 in the westbound direction, it could impact fire response from that fire station. As I said, we reached out to the fire marshal, who's the person in the fire department who reviews all these things to ensure that they are not going to impede their access and responses in their vehicles, and they had no concerns about this. Generally, the backups occur in the eastbound direction. In the mornings, the traffic's pretty free flowing unless something happens at the entrance to the labs, something at the VAP that happens that causes a backup. In the evenings, kind of like I think it's like 4:15 to 5 o'clock ish. I think it's just everyone wants to leave at once, and then actually it's caused by a traffic signal at Rover and NM4. We did do counts when we did the Sherwood and Pinion counts in November. Been working with our traffic manager. We did make some adjustments to the signal timing to try and alleviate some of those backups, providing some more time for that eastbound direction. But there's kind of like a limit to what we can do because there's quite a lot of traffic coming back into White Rock at that time. But so those were the main concerns about, I think, the response times if there is a backup. But unfortunately, it relies on drivers getting out of the way, and there is sufficient space for them to move over. It's just people are not generally paying attention, unfortunately, in this day and age.
No comment on that. So I'm trying to picture the median. So this is the first I heard that it was going to be 2 different signals and a median in the middle. If you have 10 kids that want to cross at one time, can all 10 of them fit in the median?
Yeah, so we're actually making what I call a zigzag. So I don't know if Linda can go back to one of the slides, but basically it's going to go like this. So there'll be more than sufficient space. I can't remember what the offset between the 2 crossings is, but it'll be 10 foot wide within that swath. I know it's hard to see now. I didn't make my dotted lines overly bold, but it's kind of like that. So yeah.
No, that's fine. I trust you.
Really?
Well, until I see how many kids pile up on the median all at once, we'll see what happens. No, I doubt if they're all there at one time, but it's just a concern that I thought about when I heard about the 2 different signals. So that's all my questions.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Hall. Any other questions? Let's see. I did have. This could be slightly belaboring the point on the signal because I believe that it was 2022 when it was site plan was approved. So
I think it was 2020.
2020 for the site plan for the mixed use. Okay, so it's been a long time. So you mentioned additional studies, so we can do that every so often when there's another whatever homes built. But in terms of the signal being approved for a warrant, when that development occurs, it's a condition of the development to have the signal. So the signal goes in first.
So
is that right? Or how is that? What's the sequencing of that?
It'll be coordinated when they get their certificate of occupancy. So as they're building to that, then the signal will get installed.
So once they're at the point where they can get a certificate of occupancy, then.
So they could build the signal before, but we can't switch it on.
They can't turn it on until they get a CO. Okay. That makes some sense. Maybe this has to do with the fact that you have emergency vehicles there too, but I love the fact that you have a little barrier between the path, I'll call it multi-use path, and then the bike lane. But between the bike lane and the road, there's just paint, right?
Yes.
Right. And so we've talked about this a lot of times before, but the complications if you have some sort of barrier there. So I guess if it's a rollover barrier, then it limits its utility, right? But then you could drive over it. Somebody could pull over, get out of the way of the emergency vehicles. I'm just kind of concerned about, I understand it's a lot less expensive to have paint, but I'm concerned about the lack of safety between the vehicles in the roadway and the bicycles with just having paint. And I know, and technically we're not approving that, but that's part of your discussion, so that's why I brought it up.
Yeah.
We're just approving the hot crossing, but I just wanted to ask about that since you brought it up and it came up with the basically the safety issues. Those are with the fire station, people getting around if they need to pull over. So was there any discussion about any kind of
Separation?
barrier? Yeah,
Yeah,
separation.
the initial concept, which it validly raised some of the concerns about emergency access, was that 18-inch curb. We had placed it between the bike lane and the travel lane to create that separated bike lane. When I've been out there are some cyclists using NM4, but they're the highly experienced looking cyclists. They're not the 5-year-olds following along their mother. And we always try and develop facilities for everyone, but they'll have access to the trail system. The NM4 trail on the south side goes all the way around to I think to the Parajito, is that the right name of that subdivision, to the west, and then goes in. So they have alternatives. So it's kind of one of those balancing things. In that location, the bike lanes are wider. They're not just 5 feet to curb. They're I think 7 feet if we paint a 1 foot kind of painted median, if you want to call it that. So it was a thought in my mind, how could we make this like that? But then as you get into downtown Rock, then there's really no way to
There's no room.
to continue that separation. So it would kind of be like just more for show rather than
it wouldn't. It's not a protected bike path to anywhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
And bicyclists, at least for that segment that we have that trail, will be able to use that trail through there. If you know what I mean. So if you're in town cycling westbound, you could then access the separated trail. Right.
Okay. So I think that makes some sense. Well, also, since you brought it up, you brought up the part between the truck route and White Rock. So right now that is just the 2 lanes, and I think that is part of the study, right, to look at finally redoing that road.
I believe DOT is
looking at that.
Correct.
But they're not looking at. So you know what I'm asking? I'm asking about bike lanes there. There's no bike lane discussion there, right?
I'll take that one, Chair Eddie. So there has been a project that DOT has been working on for some time. It's been really slow going. They've had to change a lot of the project engineers over time. They had a change of engineering consultants, from then to now. At a recent conference, I had some discussions with DOT about that, and they do have a new project engineer on board. They had been having plans to have a public meeting to talk about this because they're at their very early stages of planning for this project. So they're in that study phase, if you will, of looking at different alternatives and looking at the needs of the corridor. Something that the county has been advocating for some time is adding shoulders for safety and refuge, but for also bicycle use as well, because there's a lot of on-road bicyclists that utilize that corridor for biking purposes. Could there be a multi-use trail aspect to that potentially? So those are conversations that still need to be had, and hopefully we hear more soon as far as the project schedule and the rollout as time goes on. So,
okay, thank you. Oh, I did have a question because it's come up with the, so there's the so-called Idaho stop. Um, so I know that applies to stop signs. It also applies to, does it apply? The question was, since we have cyclists in the area, I mean, they're going to be paying attention to the same lights. So, because you mentioned vehicles, do you mean bicycles also are supposed to do exactly the same thing when they come to, or is this the law about the Idaho stop change some of that?
So the Idaho stop, or like, which is because it was first implemented in Idaho, that was, I think, July 1 that came into effect in New Mexico. So basically that allows a bicyclist to yield at a stop sign, so they don't have to come to a full stop at a stop sign. But at a traffic signal, they have to first come to a stop, but then can proceed on red if it's clear to do so.
Okay.
So in this instance, a cyclist on that roadway would have to first come to a stop because of the red signal.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
if the pedestrian had cleared in front of them and the light was still red, then they could legally continue.
Okay. Okay. I think that's all the questions I had. So, let's see. I think we're ready for public comment. Is anyone in the room like to make a public comment?
I'm Richard Gaddis, 102 Confianza Street in Mirador. I don't want to shoot this down. The hawk signal really is not going to affect me one way or the other. But let's see, it's page 8 of the presentation, I think it was. It excludes the part of the Mirador subdivision from La Vista down to Sherwood. The only way that we would be able to utilize the hawk crossing is to hike uphill to La Vista, come back around, and go down to the hawk crossing. This is not part of this project, but I would appreciate the council looking into the provisions of the approval of the mixed use development. There were some provisions in there. The letter of approval had provisions in there that have now been put off for what? 3 years? Maybe 4? One of those is ADA compliance. At the time, we had no way of getting from the Confianza cul-de-sac over to Sherwood. This opens up the possibility that instead of an ADA zigzag ramp down to Mirador and then on around to Sherwood, possibly building some kind of an connection from the cul-de-sac over to the north side path. I'd like to look into that. I also want to, part of the reason that we do not have a lot of volume of children crossing the street, taking buses and so forth, it's just too damn dangerous to get over there. So they're probably not doing that. And as far as bus service, there is not bus service to the middle school or high school from Mirador itself. Yes, they do have school buses picking up elementary students and taking them to Pinon. But otherwise, it's up to the parents to figure out how to get their children up to Los Alamos. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, do we have any other?
My name is Jessica Robinson. I'm at 61 Confianza. Oh, it's all right. I'm quick. I have a couple of kiddos. I make them call me on their watch every time we cross Highway 4, and I run out and help them cross. So I think there's a handful of us in the neighborhood that would like a stoplight, but I know that's not an option. I'm really appreciative to your team for all the work you've done. I thank you for all the input you've taken. I saw something out on the street light counting traffic the last couple of weeks, or maybe it was the video camera. We just need a safe crossing for the kids. So I'm grateful for everyone looking into this. I'm grateful for the years of planning, all the engineers. I just thank you all for your support.
Okay, thank you. We have one more person.
Greg Weiss, 186 Piedra Loop. I drive this section of New Mexico 4 frequently, and I will say that for the residents of Mirador, having a safe crossing that is in a location that is likely to be used is imperative for the children there, and it should be done before there's a tragedy. So I'm in favor of doing this program. I guess my only disagreement is that I think the speed limit could be reduced only to 40 versus 35, which is 40 is the speed of New Mexico for south of White Rock. And for example, that's the speed along Diamond, along the golf course. And that's sort of like this. And there's a crossing on that road where it is there. So that's my thoughts. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Not seeing anyone else. Do we have anyone on the line, Ms. Besson?
I'll check. If you'd like to make public comment, please use the raise hand feature. Chair, I'm not seeing any hands raised.
Okay, so is there Counselor interested in making a motion? Counselor Ham?
Thank you, Chair. I move that council approve the installation of a high-intensity activated crosswalk called HAWK signal on New Mexico 4, approximately 550 feet east of La Vista Drive.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Counselor Ham, second by Counselor Herman. Is there any discussion? Okay, not seeing any. I'll just say, I mean, we've been talking about this for a really long time, and also about the light. So I think this is a good step forward, and I do appreciate the issues associated with the 1/3 that's got much different distance, but these are meant to work together. So without having the ability to put in the light on our own, which I think I'd asked about before, I think this is where we are. So can the clerk please call a roll?
Counselor Neil Clinton.
Yes.
Counselor Hand.
Yes.
Counselor Herman.
Yes.
Counselor Wrighty.
Yes.
Counselor Rieger.
Yes.
Counselor Haveman.
Yes.
Counselor Call.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, let the record show the motion passes unanimously. I guess it's after 8 o'clock, so maybe given we still have some more items left, suggest we try to take about a 10-minute break. Okay, we can. So we're back in session, and as soon as technology cooperates, we'll get back to the item. Next item here, so we're on item 9C. It's 21130-26. It's presentation and possible acceptance of the FY 2025 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report with Auditor's Opinion and FY 2025 Single Audit Report with Auditor's Opinion. Ready to go ahead, please.
Yes. Good evening, Chair Wrighty and members of council. Tonight, I am here to present the FY25 ACFR and Single Audit Report. And this year, you'll notice that we did issue 2 separate reports. Typically, the Single Audit Report is included in the ACFR. However, during the federal government shutdown back in October, we were informed that the final 2025 OMB compliance supplement had not yet been issued. This supplement is required before we can finalize the single audit. When it was still not issued in mid-November, we made a decision to go ahead and issue 2 separate reports in order to meet our financial reporting deadline for the SEC by December 31st. That reporting does not have to include the single audit, so we decided to move forward with that. Next, I'd like to highlight a few key points of our ACFR. The government-wide financial statements section starts on page 28 of the ACFR and presents the county as a whole. We are a local government entity, and our primary business is providing citizen services. So we present different types of activities on more than one measurement focus or accounting basis. Readers should look to the notes to the financial statements as well as the MD&A or management discussion and analysis to gain a better understanding of the measurement focuses. Next slide. So governmental activities are, they do include all the county's basic services and governmental functions that are supported by general county revenues, which is primarily taxes. Business type activities include the joint utility system, environmental services, fire, transit, and airport. And these are generally supported by charges paid by users. Next slide. The government-wide financial statements present the county as a whole like a business. The county's total ending net position for 2025 was $660.3 million, which is a $26.8 million increase from the prior year. The explanations of key differences are described in our MD&A section of the ACFR. Next slide. This chart shows revenues by type and expenditures by function over the last 5 years in our governmental funds. It also shows how well our sources or revenues cover our uses or expenditures. Our surplus or deficit primarily corresponds with how much capital outlay we spent over the last year. And as you can see in FY23 and 24, there is a $35.3 million surplus and a $36.4 million surplus respectively. This surplus significantly decreased in FY25 to $855,000, mainly due to an $18 million decrease in total revenues, which is primarily our GRT, and a $17 million increase in expenditures, which is primarily capital assets. Next slide. This chart is intended to show the changes in revenues and expenditures. And as you can see, there's an $855,000 surplus again as of June 30. This means that we have essentially banked reserves in that amount in our governmental funds intended to provide services to the community. Next slide. Figure 3 compares program revenues to expenses for business type activities for fiscal year 25. And this chart demonstrates to what degree the revenues covered expenses for each program by type of activity. Overall, total business type program revenues are less than total program expenses by approximately $5.1 million in FY25. Next slide. Our GRT makes up our primary source of revenues in our general fund and a few earmarked for special purposes. And here's a snapshot of our GRT over the past 10 years. And you can see an $18.3 million decrease in our GRT over the prior year. GRT is significantly impacted by Alamos funding and activity each year, and it makes up approximately 80% of our GRT revenue. Next slide. What makes an ACFR unique? The ACFR is a governmental entity financial statements that must contain an introductory financial section and statistical section. Our statistical section does contain 26 tables of useful data about our organization and compares 10 years of data where applicable. It does take specialized knowledge in governmental accounting to be able to perform all the adjustments, calculations, and reporting under GASB requirements. Los Alamos County has received awards of excellence in financial reporting from the Government Finance Officers Association, which is GFOA, for the past 34 consecutive years. Next slide. And finally, I want to just a huge thank you to the finance staff for all that they do to pull this together and all the extra hours that are worked from July to essentially December.
They all do a great job, and also to all the county departments for doing such a great job all year long to aid us in positive results of our audit. It is truly a team effort, and we are very fortunate to have such an amazing team. I will now turn it over to Farley Vanier with Hinkle and Landers to discuss the results of our annual audit.
Good evening, county councilors. Making sure you can hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, well, we'll go ahead and be brief with this. We're just going to present the results of the audit apart from what you've already heard. So just moving to the next page. This will be our agenda, and we'll take about 5 minutes or less. So we'll move past this. Just to introduce the team that worked on the audit, I was a partner in charge. Caitlin did what we call the heavy lifting with managing the audit, and she had support staff. Karina was her main person supporting the audit. And next page. Just to outline the scope of work, what our job is as auditors is we give an opinion on the financial statements, and then we also give another opinion on the major federal programs and this is what's called the single audit. So those two opinions, and then apart from those two opinions, this year we performed some non-attest services. So we prepared the financial statements. It was usually you do that internally. I think this year was an exception to that. And then the last thing to note there is that there are some state audit rule compliance testing areas that we are also required to test. And then move on to the next slide. Just gives a summary of some key communications that we should communicate to those charged with governance. We did this at what we call the exit conference before we send it into the state auditor's office for their review. But to summarize, just to explain the accounting practices, one of our jobs is to ensure that the practices, policies, estimates, and disclosures in the report are consistent with the standards, which in this case are generally accepted accounting principles, GAAP, and GASB, the government accounting standards. Then those key lines you see there, proposed adjustments, we had none. No other adjustments. All those lines say none. That means we had no issues there, or everything was very clean, and no disagreements with management, no difficulties performing the audit. And then the highlight was there was the introduction of a new standard called GASB 101. That's related to the measurement of compensated absences, the liability at year end. So just a new way of measuring it, and so that was implemented this year. And moving on, results of the audit. The two opinions are unmodified, and that means clean opinion. So in other words, for the financial statements, we believe the numbers being presented are materially correct. And for the federal awards, we believe as auditors that you are in compliance with the rules of those grants that were considered major federal programs this year. Finding wise, you can see that table there, no findings to report. And then moving on. Be real brief on this. There are new standards coming out every year. 101 was introduced this year, as I mentioned, and 102 was also introduced and implemented, but there was no impact for the county. Next year will be new standards called financial reporting model. So the report will have some changes in it, and also a new standard next year is called capital assets, just clarification on how to present the categories and in certain areas that maybe have not been previously addressed are going to be introduced next year as well. Next slide. I'll move real quick past these. So these are just background on 101. Next page. 102. Next page. Continue on, please. This will be the new standards next year, the reporting model, just some summaries, but I don't think we need to go into it today unless someone would have some questions on that. So I'll move past that. Continue on, please. Continue. And then this page just explains that there are new standards that have not been implemented yet. They're just in the pipeline. Actually, in subsequent events, you can see that one that was listed for December. That one has been issued. There was one, you see, July implementation guide. Every year they put out an implementation guide which just answers questions on how to apply standards. And anyway, next slide, please. And that's it. So thank you for working with us, and I can stop for any questions or discussion.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Dotsey and Mr. Veneer. Do we have any technical or clarifying questions from council? I'm not seeing any. So let's see, do we have any public comment on this item? Madison can check online.
If you'd like to make public comment, please use the raise hand function. Chair, I'm not seeing any hands raised.
Okay, so I have a counselor.
I move the council accept the annual comprehensive financial report and single audit report for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2025.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Councilor Neil Clinton, a second by Councilor Call. Do we have any discussion? Councilor Call?
No, just say great work. Thank you.
Okay, so it was great to be, that you were recognized last week in New Mexico counties. So it was the Medium County, I think, award. That's, you received that award, I think, almost every year. It's been available. So, and since 2011, so that's a great acknowledgement. And yeah, it's a very comprehensive report. I love the statistical information on the back. And so I think my favorite table this year was the 10-year difference in the number of jobs. And you could see the number, basically 8,000 more jobs over on the other side of the bridge. So that's in there. So there's a lot of good stuff in there. If you didn't get that far, there's stuff at the back that you can look at. Okay, so please call the roll.
Counselor Ridey.
Yes.
Counselor Rieger.
Yes.
Counselor Hand.
Yes.
Counselor Cole.
Yes.
Counselor Haveman.
Yes.
Counselor Neil Clinton.
Yes.
Counselor Herman.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, let the record show the motion passes unanimously. So thank you again. Okay, now we're on to item 9D 21226-26, discussion and possible action on establishment of a Metropolitan Redevelopment Area Commission. So I asked to have this because we had a discussion of this 2 weeks ago at the work session, and there was no opportunity for action. So I just wanted to make sure, since we heard some different opinions, and that's kind of cataloged in the staff report, plus we had one counselor absent, whether council was interested in pursuing this or not, and just so we could have public aware of what direction we're going. I guess I could start with a few comments of just what I've heard. And we certainly heard there's a concern about transparency of the process as it's implemented now. People have commented about notice of that the MRA existed, and that there was a possibility of something maybe happening in a building. There were occupants or I'm not sure about owners. We didn't get that level of detail. But I was kind of curious about, I did looked at the general statute, and I guess with our home rule, we would have some latitude. But the statute does indicate that there would be 5 members of the commission. It indicates the initial terms, but they're intended to be 5 years eventually. The commissioners for this MR commission could be replaced by in our case, the county manager, I think, or the chair of the council at their discretion, which I'm not sure, maybe we could set up something differently, but that's what's in the general law. I'm not sure if that's what people are thinking we would be doing. And then I did have questions about, what would happen to projects if we were to go down this path. What happens to projects in the meantime? We did get an email from one party that's working on an MRA application. So I guess maybe you just start with that. So I guess how do people, any response to the comments I made about the issues that people have raised, plus the logistics of doing this? What would be the plan for right now projects if we were to establish a commission with everything stop? Or would we continue under the current process? So I guess I'll just, Councilor Hand, did you have any answers?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'll just provide my input regarding the existing process and, things that are in the works. I think they should just follow what we currently, our current process. But, for the long term, I think that it should not be council that makes the decisions on this. I think we should have a new commission and set up something similar to what we do for all the other topics, and decision making that we have. We have boards and commissions and advisory boards, et cetera, that all report to council with their recommendations. People have to interview for this. They have to have qualifications, that are relevant to the work that is going to be done. And I would like to see something like that. And I think that it would help with transparency, or at least I think, a lot of people in the community would like to see something like that, because there's a feeling of, having, more citizen input than a situation where we have council making the decisions on that. This may take a while to set up, and, because it may take a while, I think that we have to continue on with the current process for any things that are in the works right now.
Thank you, Councilor Ann. Any other? Look over here. Councilor Rieger?
Well, I kind of concur with Councilor Hand is saying, but I also would like to talk about this in a more general sense, and that we need an advisory committee, which an economic incentives board that advises us not just on MRA projects, but also on LEDA projects. And they would have to be people that are from a business background and familiar with things like banking and construction and retail and maybe restaurants, things like that. They can give us very sensible business advice that could go with our work. And I have an example that is not recent, but it did fall apart a few years ago, which was the Marriott project at 20th Street, where we were. This town it can't support a full-size Marriott, but it was could have been a Marriott Courtyard. But it got saddled with other things. It included a convention center, which then somehow or another in the business world that turned into the end of it. I don't know how that could not go ahead, because we're so short of hotel rooms. that we're so short of lodging, and that project on 20th Street, there's no way it couldn't have been modeled as a successful thing by any business person. And then they just had to go get funding before interest rates went up. But this was like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, it was all happening. And that process got waylaid by things that were added that I never understood how it happened. I didn't make any business sense to me. In the end, there's no way you could not build a Marriott Courtyard on 20th Street in Los Alamos and not get the funding and all of the support put together. And that hotelier was unable to pull it off. And I think we have to have people advising us on that stuff rather than tying up that property for years, saying, this can go ahead or this is not going to go ahead. And it turned into something that got tangled up in other needs of the county, but then didn't turn into a viable initiative that would actually go all the way through. And so now nobody was here then except Randy was probably around for the beginning of that time when that project was put together. But I think it's the kind of the disease we're not getting good business advice from the public, except people complaining later on when they don't like the results. And then we get lots of business people talking to us, but we don't get people talking to us. We need to have them talking to us earlier. So I don't know if this commission would be empowered to review things like the 20th Street project, but I think going forward, as we have new leaders and new MRA initiatives, that we need a group of business people who are like a economic incentives board or an economic incentives commission, whatever we want to call it. I don't know the exact legal structure, but we need people giving us advice on all of these kinds of projects, from including like banking judgments and what's construction and everything else. So I think we need exactly this kind of thing, and we should start moving in that direction in terms of putting together a legal structure that would take on all those responsibilities. Putting together a committee that, an ordinance that lays out that structure to get all of these things reviewed as we move forward.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Rieger. Do we have any other thoughts, Councilor Cole?
We currently have an LTAB that can't keep people or can't hold meetings because they can't get a quorum, mainly because the folks that run businesses that are on the LTAB are very busy and can't make the meetings. So what makes us think that we can find a group of business people that are willing to review and frankly do our job for us with regard to MRA projects and LEDA projects? This is, there's other ways to have transparency. We've been adjusting how we do business by bringing things to council more than once. For example, the North Mesa plan that we reviewed tonight. Again, we had a presentation on that. We were able to get a lot of public input and a lot of public comments. It's not typical that we get the kind of volume of comments that we got, but we gave it time and we allowed people to make those comments. I don't see anything really different if we have an MRA proposal or a LEDA project, which we've already started one of those, where we would have a presentation. Potentially, we could add some requirements to those presentations where we would require the business leader, whoever's making the proposal, that they have to give a presentation to council and answer questions from us that a lot of times would come from the public through us. So I just see so many delays with creating another commission that I don't think is really going to be necessary in a community like ours. Most of the MRA area is owned by a few businesses, and those businesses aren't going to want to. They can make proposals, but they're not going to want to be told by other businesses how to do business. I don't really see the benefit to this. All I heard was transparency. Otherwise, I don't understand what the real benefit is.
Thank you, Councilor Gull. Councilor Yanklin.
I want to speak from this from two perspectives. One is as a neophyte, being on council. I understand the need for transparency. I get it. And at the same time, we invest so much in communication, in having conversations and having outreach and having forums and having surveys that if we're not being transparent, I want to know what it looks like to someone else, because we are back here now 5 years later, just in the example that we had tonight, 5 years later to finally do something that we started 5 years ago. That's one thing. The second thing is, as a business person who is working, because you guys are cool, you've all retired, I'm not there yet. Having said that, you all know that I will tell you I live and die by my calendar. When I hear a 5-year commitment as a small business person, you want me to take even more time that I don't have to commit to something where I may or may not, it may or may not be well received. That's a lot. And I agree. We have boards, commissions now that we can't get people to serve their civic duty. So now you want to ask a small business to invest that time as well. So the two things that I see, again, I think we've actually gotten to the point, or at least for the year that I've been here, people tend to know that's one of the questions I'm going to ask is, what are we doing to inform the community? That's when I'm like, what does that look like between the emails, the outreach, the billboards, the postings? I don't know what else we can do. And again, I speak as a neophyte. So that's my take. So, to be clear, no.
Okay. Thank you, Councilor Yanklin. Councilor Herman.
Thank you, Chair. I'm very excited about the MRA, and I want to just thank Los Alamos Main Street for making this possible. Jacqueline Connolly, the director, worked just tirelessly to make this happen, and I think Los Alamos and White Rock are going to be great because of this. If it's about the transparency, then let's figure out how to improve that. We did in the past have an economic vitality group that business people could engage with. It during COVID, I think, just kind of went away, and a lot of those people are now on an economic development board. But we can figure out how to improve that. I just can't see adding in another layer to make this take more time. It's just adding in more complication, especially when the decision ultimately comes down to the people sitting here right now. So, I think we can come up with some improvements, but no, I don't think we need to add in another commission to the decision-making process on this.
Oh, okay, thank you, Councilor Herman. Councilor Haveman, great.
Thank you, Chair Righty. Part of good governance is transparency and public engagement, but part of good governance is also efficiency and effectiveness. And as I thought about this and thought about what other communities have done and thought about kind of the scope of work we have hopefully ahead of us with some MRA applications to fulfill the purpose of revitalizing these areas that need better public-private partnership. I just don't see how adding a layer of what some might characterize as bureaucracy to the process adds enough value. And I couldn't agree more with Counselor Herman that, and other counselors alluded to it, that what we're hearing is maybe a lack of trust in leadership, or a lack of confidence that we will be open and transparent about the applications we receive and how funds are allocated to applicants. Well, we can work on that. We can do two things at once. And I think part of the goal is to include business people and hear what they have to say about certain applications. But the goal also has to be to help the business applicants succeed in this process. That's really the whole point of this in the first place. And I think we want to be putting up fewer barriers, not more barriers. So I will also be supporting the council acting as the advisory body for this process. Thank you.
I have one more statement. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Hammond. Yes, sir, Councilor.
The other thing is, when we think about other counties, they're much larger than we are. I can see that in a larger county, but we see these people at Smith's or at Nambe. So it's not like we're inaccessible, and it's not like anybody in Los Alamos is afraid to talk to you when you're trying to run the UPS. They will stop you and have conversations. So again, we're really small. And one of the things that I've said to people on more than one occasion, I can't do anything if I don't know anything about it. And here in this town, they are not afraid to tell you anything about anything.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Hen.
I just had one more comment in response to some of the other things that I heard. And one of the things that I think we should keep in mind is that we're already trying to define what the members of this commission would be. And like other boards that we have, we have a lot of different boards, and we have a lot of people with a lot of expertise. And I don't think that, by us determining that it has to be small business owners on this commission is necessarily fair. It's not a fair assessment of what this commission could be. I think we need to define just the criteria. People can have experience and not be a small business owner, but they can still have relevant experience. And maybe they're retired as well, and they have another way to contribute. Yes, we've had some challenges with LTAB right now with attendance. But I don't think that we should just base it on some of the challenges that a current board is having. I think that the amount of workload and the level of detail that's needed isn't necessarily a counselor's job. And then there's the argument, well, if we're going to do this, why don't we take away other boards too and just do those jobs too? We make the final decisions on all those things, instead of having people make recommendations and bring them to us. Why aren't we making the final decisions on everything? We'll just start reviewing everything. We just don't have that time. And so, I know there's always a concern about, developing something new, but I think this is a certain kind of expertise that we need. And I don't know that, our counselors have the time to devote to this either. When we're talking about individual guidance to people who want to fill out an application and go through the process and, vet everything, look at all the competition for, all the applicants, I just don't know that that's something that we should be doing at a council level. So I would still recommend that we consider how we're operating with all our different boards and commissions and try to do something similar. I do realize it takes more time. And, you know, yes, we could make the same argument for every other board and commission that we have. It takes more time. But, you know, what's the justification for all those boards and commissions? There is a reason why they're there. And do we use them or do we not? And we should be consistent. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Hand. So I'll just say a couple more things. Yeah, it's been, it's come up, I think, for years now, the question about, we'd have an independent, like a commission, economic incentive board. But I guess another kind of question I've been mulling about is when other communities have these kind of boards, do they, and I know like in Clovis, they have like a whole process that's laid out, like a pre-application, application. So they have forms that are filled out. And I don't believe that the Economic Incentive Board is like, they're not holding like a public meeting, and it's not like office hours and people come in, I got a project I want to do. They approach somebody in the county government that understands the requirements. I mean, that's the people that would be vetting. And that's been one of the concerns is like that. But that's just the person that has a project has to understand, like, am I filling this out correctly? Can you recommend this or not? And we had the discussion about even LEDA projects that, maybe there's a LEDA project and it goes through the process and it gets no recommendation from the county manager, but we still can see it, right? I mean, it doesn't have very strong support then because it has no recommendation. And I look at that the same way with the MRA, is I think that, if there was an MRAs, and the other thing I think is the throughput. I think it's the size of the county, or we've had the MRA in White Rock since 2022. It's now 2026, I think. So it's been like 4 years, and there were questions like, well, there's not like a form you can fill out on the web, but it's been around for a while, and we haven't had, and I think there's been some interest in having, MRA applications, just like we have LEDAs. We just had a LEDA last meeting, right? That worked, I think. And then they had a previous LEDA, and then they asked for some more money. And, nobody here was like negotiating. Well, here's what they come with what they want. And then they basically say, does that fit into the framework we have or not? It's not like staff are like looking around and saying, well, I think you should go develop that. Nobody's doing that. The people that own the properties are coming to other people and saying, I want to do this project, and here's what the money I need is, and how much of that is legitimately a public function. And so that's not happening at an economic incentive board. That's already filled out. I mean, they know what that is. So I don't understand. I'm just trying to wrap my head around that comment. Like, I think that there's still going to be meetings of staff with people that want to apply for funds, whether or not we add another board or commission or not, right? So I just don't know. So now I'm getting into what is the marginal benefit. I understand, yeah, there could be some benefit if we had enough applications to having, a bigger group of people, and it could be whoever we decide, but if we look at like the city of Santa Fe, they had really pretty specific qualifications. And of course, they have a lot more people to choose from. So they had a number of basically positions identified, which, like our Planning and Zoning Commission, we've had the same, should there be like general citizen members and then members that understand development code, like they're developers or contractors. We don't do that. It's just like anybody that's available, and some people have experience and some people don't. And we weigh that when we have applications. And sometimes, there aren't a lot of people that have a huge number of qualifications that apply for the boards. So if we're going to be having a commission and we're not really sure, I mean, that's the concern I have, like who's going to apply, what qualifications they have. And if we're going to keep doing what we're doing, that's why I asked that question. Because I think we have at least one application and one applicant, they contacted us and said, I'm just really concerned about you doing this. So those are my concerns. I understand, but I think that people still need to meet with county staff to discuss their projects. So that has to happen. And frankly, those aren't public meetings. Those are meetings, it's like, well, then every conversation everyone has is a public meeting. That isn't what a public meeting is. A public meeting is like right now, we're sitting here. And it's like if you have an economic incentive board or you have a metropolitan redevelopment commission, those meetings are public, just like the transportation board, planning and zoning, and LTAP. But if they're just doing it advisory, then I have another issues like, then it has to come back to us. So I go back to the suggestions I've heard about, well, maybe the process can be, I think it's maybe okay, but it can be, only things, processes can always be improved, right? I think the county manager's report has a list of LEDA projects, right, that are ongoing. So there is really no list of MRA projects, I think. I think that there's like one that hasn't started yet as a project. They want to get it going. But yeah, that could be added. We can be tracking those. And then we can ask, but if somebody has a project, they can't be required to come and to a council meeting and present their project, but we can encourage them. Say, this will really be a lot better. Like, as you allude to, people want to know what's going on. So, and if we had a night when there was a bike park, there might be a lot of people listening, right? Most of the time, we don't have a lot of people listening to council meetings. I'm sure there's a lot of people online and listening to the recording, but we can say that we are expecting like public meetings. If you're going to be asking for MRA funding, we're expecting public meetings. We're expecting you to be telling, having news articles and writing press releases about your project, updating the community and what's going on, and certainly communicating with whoever is within your project. I can't control that at all, but they can control what communication they provide to the people within their project, and they should be working with them already. So I guess I was asked this question at the first workshop we had about the MRA in downtown LA about do I think that we need a commission? And I said I didn't think so. And I mean, we still don't have the number of projects where we couldn't do the work. And if we're going to have to ultimately approve it anyway, I'm still wondering what the benefit is of having some additional, if it's not going to happen right away, when would it happen? We're going to go do the work of doing an ordinance, having commission, and then requiring, it's interesting. There's one of the positions that starts for 1 year and then they have 2 and 3 years, but ultimately that person on the 1-year position is then expected to apply for a 5-year appointment, which we have difficulty getting people to apply for boards like the BPU, where they have to do a 5-year commitment. There are some people, but they're retired people. And I think we want to have like some other people engaged in helping us make these decisions. So apologize for being a bit long-winded there, but this has been, I'm concerned about, that people sense there's lack of transparency and accountability, but I don't think that the commission solves that problem. So, okay, I've talked enough. So, Councilor Rieger.
A few moments. The problem with LTAP is always that they have so little purview that it's hard for people to get enthusiastic about that service because they have a tiny little corner and very little authority, and they make, their recommendations would be very small in any case. So I don't know about that. That's not really a relevant thing. I'm thinking about a board that's actually where you could get people that are enthusiastic about making a difference in the community, and they could come out and try to participate in helping projects get developed that are really important economically. and especially the part where you're interfacing to private capital. And I guess I don't have enough experience to count all of this, but I think the new 20th Street project is another one of these things that maybe if we had good advisors who are business people, they would say it's a little bit complicated and capital intensive for our community, and it's probably not going to happen. Just as the previous Marriott project, the 20th Street project, the last generation of it, just was sitting there. It never really failed in a true sense. It just sat there until we bought out their options and went on to new people. And these new guys, I don't know if they're going to be successful either. They're very elaborate projects that look to me as though if I had a good business guy advising me, we would look at it differently. If we had good business people advising us, people that knew finance and stuff, we might pick a different kind of picture to how to do that. And so I think we have in the past, and of course nobody was here, but that except probably Randy. But it happened even before I was on the council on the first time that came through. And so I'm thinking with all of this MRA and LEADA capabilities, we can really make a change, and we can recruit people who are really interested in it because we are giving this new authorities to pick projects that they want to push ahead and help get the applications into conditions so they can satisfy the state law. And that's the kind of thing that we need that kind of advice to the council. So I certainly hope all of our current housing projects go through. I think that some of them are simpler and more structured to be successful. But then our business development projects, I don't know when that's going to happen. And I think we need to have people advising us on what is really practical. And I think ignoring this for the MRA is the same as ignoring it for LEADA, that I don't know how we really end up in a good spot. I don't think it'll happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Rieger. Okay, any other? Okay, not seeing anyone else. So I think we're at the point for public comment.
Well, I'm Lisa Shin. I'm at 637 47th Street. I guess the concern that I have is if we don't do this commission, right, then it would be a review committee. And that review committee is internal and it's only county staff. And that's on page 10 of the MRA handbook. And so the committee would evaluate an application within 30 days. And then the project meeting criteria are recommended to council. Council would consider the MRA ordinance over 2 public meetings, first for the introduction and second for the approval and adoption. And that just seems rather vast to me. Like, I just want the assurance that the public does have adequate time to review the application and provide meaningful input that matters. I just kind of feel like the way it's set up now, it's very fast. You have an application, you have the county-led review committee, and you know, I know Councilor Call had mentioned that business owners don't want other businesses telling them what to do. It's not about businesses telling each other what to do. It's more about having that small business experience and having input and understanding how the economy works here in Los Alamos. And so you can provide advice that's can be very effective. You know, and as far as our being a small town, you know, Clovis is only about 10,000 people more than us, and they have a steering committee where I think there's like 7 business owners that are part of the MRA process, and they work closely with the county staff and the county manager, or I'm sorry, the mayor, to really discuss these projects. And the steering committee is invited to all the meetings. And so, you know, moving forward, I just kind of feel like as far as the review committee, it would be great to have public invited to all the meetings of the review committee. That's one thing that you could do right away to improve the transparency. Also, the other thing you could do is make sure that all the Zoom meetings between county staff and potential applicants are recorded and accessible to the public. That's one thing that hasn't been done. And I do believe that all residents and property owners within the MRA should be invited to all future meetings of the review committee. I just feel like many of us feel like we've been left in the dark. We didn't understand that Columbus Capital was asking for $30 million, $50 million in public funds. I know that in 800 Trinity, Christian Science and Top Nails, the owner of Top Nails and myself, we feel like we've all been left in the dark. So I would just like to see more openness and transparency with whatever happens with the MRA. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Shin. Do we have anyone else? Is there anyone else online?
There is, Chair. Jeffrey, you should be able to unmute. Please state your full name and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Yeah, hi, I'm Jeffrey Branch with Columbus Capital. We're the owners of the Merrimack Shopping Center and the adjacent Olson properties as well.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Right. Well, council members, thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. Obviously, we're probably the largest property owner within the MRA. We were invited by the county to come in roughly 2021 or 22 by Joni Adler, who was just a great ambassador for the county back then, with a request that some development come to the community in terms of housing and retail, hotel, hospitality, these type of things. And it was something that we were quite excited about trying to help. And it's been a haul. And for those of you that have followed through the transparency with the number of meetings we've had in the business community, with residents, and yes, we have been meeting with staff, and those meetings generally aren't public meetings, but we're trying to understand the MRA process. The MRA process did take a long time. It's taken a few years, and we've been very patient in trying to get that done. We've committed over $16 million into the community already between Merrimack and the adjacent properties, and we're already underway with our schematic designs. Interest rates have doubled during this period. Construction costs are very difficult in Los Alamos, and that's probably why you all don't see the kind of development you'd like to see. Because the trades are coming from Albuquerque. So it's been a haul, but we have done our best to really be transparent to the community of what we're doing. There is an article in the LA Reporter today that kind of really lays out where we're at, where we've been for those of you that don't know. And so we're at that stage where we're ready to submit an application. We have been visiting with staff. Staff does have legal counsel. We have legal counsel, so that we can craft something that can come before your body that hopefully works for the community. We have not put a formal ask in place, obviously, because there's no application. So Ms. Shin's comment with regards to what we're doing about that is false. We're at a critical stage here. So changing the direction of where we're going with this thing could really risk our project. We are right at the doorsteps of submitting an application, and hopefully fairly soon coming before this body to discuss what our ask is and how we intend in achieving that. But it's a critical step in our process. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. So I just want to respectfully urge that you not put this step in place, because it could be a real problem. And we just thank you for your time and your consideration.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Branch.
Greg, you should be able to unmute. Please state your full name and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Greg Gonzalez. I'm also with Columbus Capital and owner of part owner of the property at 3500 Central. Incorporating a project into the MRA is a very complicated process. It's going to address issues of economic development. It's going to include land use, public infrastructure, traffic, and definitely have financial and legal implications. The challenge with establishing a board, an independent board or commission for that is trying to find somebody with expertise in all those areas. The benefit that council has as oversight is they have direct access to the experts that we all trust, and that is staff. I mean, there's a public infrastructure division, there's a land use division, there's a economic development. So an independent commission will also introduce delays and the implements of projects that the MRA was created for in the first place. With respect to transparency and protecting the interests of the county in relation to the MRA, I think it goes without saying that there's no entity that's going to protect the transparency of the county and the county's interests as vehemently as this county council. Therefore, I also request the council not vote to create a separate commission or introduce another layer of bureaucracy to implement this MRA, which is a complicated process to begin with, and it would be better not to implement any more complications. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez.
User identified as iPad. You should be able to unmute. Please state your full name and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Hi, this is Phil Gursky. We'll note that I am representative for and affiliated with the development project at Longview in White Rock, and we too will be making an MRA request with respect to one of the phases of operation. And I share a lot of the same concerns that Jeff and Greg have on the complication of the process. And I think for purposes of elucidation, we still must go through every land use, development code, building permit, and other requirements that are necessary for development. The requirements that are in the MRA and the tools at the MRA are largely financial tools and specific kinds of development tools that are useful and may be helpful in making a project more feasible. But they are really almost exclusively financial or financially tied. If you look at the state statute, there are quite a few things that even if you adopted a commission, that cannot be decided by a commission. They must be decided by the council, including funding, taxation, assessments, various kinds of bonding, and other kinds of things that are really necessary for large requests under the MRA. I think that the staff that you have are the people that we work with. And I do have a suggestion. I have the suggestion I think that Commissioner Cull has put out, and I think was put before, is the practice that you've now had of having an additional public meeting ahead of the introduction of the ordinances is a very useful tool for public application. And I would suggest that as you have the application for an MRA, that you make use of your public portal, the same one you use for all applications for planning and zoning approvals, building permits. Have those applications be part of that portal. And that means all that information is public at the time. Everything that's relevant to the application will be available all the time to the public. I think if you take those two steps, there's never going to be a time when you won't be able to track publicly as a citizen or somebody who's interested, those kinds of things. And we certainly feel like, from our perspective, that this is a more productive transparency and presentation, and it will enable us to work with the technical and legal and accounting and public engineering questions that would come up in the MRA more effectively, and to present those in a completed form ahead of the approval for the ordinance and with the ordinance as well. So we would respectfully request that you not adopt a separate MRA commission for this county at this point. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Gursky. There's no other
Chair, there's no more hands
Okay.
raised.
Thank you. So I guess, is there a counselor interested in making a motion? Counselor Herman?
I move that council take no further action and maintain council as the governing decision-making body for MRA funding requests.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Counselor Herman, second by Counselor Neil Clinton. Do we have any further discussion? Councilor Cole?
Yeah, I'd just like to, if we can ask county manager to inform the potential applicants that they will be encouraged maybe to present proposals to council at an open meeting to allow public comment. I think that would be good.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Cole. I think that's a great suggestion. And so we probably can't technically write that in, but I guess if it's possible to, unless they opt not to, for some reason, there's more urgency.
Chair Ready, Councilor Cole will take that forward and put it into practice. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so appreciate that. So I see no other comments. So can we have please have the roll call?
Counselor Rigor,
No.
Counselor Cole,
Yes.
Counselor Haveman,
Yes.
Counselor Herman,
Yes.
Counselor Wrighty,
Yes.
Counselor Neil Clinton,
Yes.
Counselor Hand.
No.
Motion passes 5-2 with Counselors Rigor and Hand voting against.
Let the record show the motion passes with Councilors Hand and Rieger opposed. Okay, so supposed to check the time at 9 o'clock. It's 9:25, I believe. So I think we can get through the rest of what we need to do. There's only a couple more items. So 9E is AGR 1196-26, discussion and possible approval of agreement number AGR 26-858 for the purchase of public safety video systems and related services from Axon Enterprise Incorporated for an amount not to exceed $6,826,839.59 for a 10-year period. We have the chiefs come along here.
Thank you, Chair, Council. Quickly, I'd like to just recognize and thank a few people. Desiree Miranda, who helps me in my office put this together with Daryl in procurement. Commander Ross, who's been with me since the beginning in evaluating this platform. Deputy County Manager Madison, who helped us put this together in the 11th hour to make sure we met our deadlines. And of course, the county manager's guidance. This is a 10-year fixed cost public safety technology program that bundles body camera, in-car videos, interview room recording, LPRs, digital evidence management, AI tools, training, warranties, and ongoing support into a predictable single agreement. As you indicated, Chair, the cost is over $6 million over 10 years. However, let me back up. What that gets us, it locks in the pricing. It includes scheduled equipment refreshes and replacements, eliminates surprise capital requests, and ensures continuous support, upgrades, and warranties. The total savings buying it in a bundle is just under $1.5 million. The savings are driven by bundled pricing, the term itself, and included life cycle management. What the department receives for this is officer body cameras and docking stations, in-car video systems and LPRs, interview room recording systems, digital evidence management, AI tools, which include search, redaction, automation, transcription, and translation, all of which are anticipated to enhance our efficiency significantly. training, implementation, and ongoing support. And again, guaranteed technology refreshes. For example, at 5 years, we would get all new body-worn cameras as part of this amount. Again, the budget impact is fixed and predictable. There's no large spikes or emergency replacement purchases, and aligns with long-term budgeting and planning best practices. We estimate that if you approve this platform, we could save up to $1.8 million in offsetting costs of current platforms that we're currently paying for. And harder to quantify, but no less important, are the efficiencies that we anticipate, just in even the redaction and transcription itself. But we also feel that this will significantly enhance officer and community safety. And with the translation, for example, you could speak, I think they're up to over 100 different languages now that automatic translation as you're speaking with the individual. It has a signal sensor in your holster, so if you unholster your weapon, your camera automatically turns on, and anybody's camera within a 30-foot radius turns on. So I'm just utilizing the time to show a couple of the features of this, which are well beyond what we currently have. The digital evidence platform allows us to maintain our records in a secure cloud-based environment for our not only for our criminal cases, but our IPRA requests. It has performance auditing tools. It has community and staff survey tools. It has virtual reality training system. It has auto tagging CAD-based metadata, which syncs with your the digital evidence platform. There's a way to, it's voluntary, of course, but if we have an incident in a certain neighborhood, for example, we can publicize a link. People can upload their Ring cameras, help us to solve crime. They can do that in multiple platforms, and this system will take that, regardless of the extension, and put it into a viewable format for us. So for investigative purposes, it's huge. This agreement modernizes the department's technology. It does improve safety, efficiency, and transparency. It provides cost certainty for the next decade and saves over $1 million compared to purchasing these systems individually. It's a high-level overview, but with that, I'll stand for questions.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Do we have any technical or clarifying questions from? Oh. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Chair, thank you. Apologies. Just one thing I wanted to clarify is the money that's we have to spend out over 10 years, or we're obligated to unless we cancel the contract, is about $1 million something less than what the contract maximum is. That's because that contract maximum builds in some penalties because we're being given some discounts for our long-term contract, but if we cancel it, we have some penalties. So we actually if we don't cancel the contract, we don't anticipate having to spend out all of it. It's about $1 million plus less than the contract max, but we have to build it in there just in case. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, thanks for the clarification. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, I do have.
Okay, Councilor Newland.
No worries. Hello, Chief.
Hello.
Quick question. Well, a couple of questions regarding the body cams. Do they run continuously? Because I noticed that you said that when they unholster, they auto engage. So does a body cam run continuously or not?
Chair Righty, Councilor Neil Clinton, it does not, it can be automated to turn on and to activate, but it would not be running continuously. And one thing about these cameras that the ones we use now have batteries that you remove. These don't. The battery's internal. So the estimated shift time or usage time on a shift from the company is about 13 to 13 and a half hours. But I wouldn't anticipate that that's a full run, and we don't fully run them for the whole shift anyway. So we're confident that from a battery perspective, and plus while they're in the vehicle, it charges while they're on shift. So we're confident from a battery perspective that we're not going to run into any issues there.
I'm going to ask the question another way. So let's say I'm in a car, I get stopped by the police. That camera, is it running?
It should be at that point. Absolutely.
It should be. So there's a possibility that it won't.
Sorry about that. Councilor Clinton. So the camera is running. It's just not actively recording. Once the officer hits the button, then it goes back to, I believe it's a 30-second previous before the button activation. Then it starts recording. And the in-car cameras are the same way. Once the lights get activated, then it starts recording. So it's constantly running. It's just not recording because of the data restrictions. But once that button is activated or the lights are activated, it goes back about 30 seconds, holds that video, then it plays it on.
So instead of it automatically engaging, the officer has the ability to record at their discretion.
Yeah, and that's our policy, and that's the state law, is anytime we have an interaction with the citizen, we have to record that interaction.
Exactly.
Yes. So when we get out of our car, we're walking up to a house, the officers are hitting the button and they come on. The feature that Chief was talking about is if, let's say it's a backup officer that comes out and there's already a gun drawn, it automatically does it because in a high-tense situation, yes.
Right.
Sometimes not everybody gets that button or something like that. It's just a redundancy to ensure that all the cameras are on.
Okay. Thank you. And then, so that was the other side of the question. What happens if the record button isn't pushed?
And that does happen. I mean, we're human like anybody else, but if it's not an automated system and it's not a car stop, because we would have it on the in-car camera at that point. So it's probably just a failure at that point for the officer to engage the camera in a citizen encounter. We do have those and we address those. We tend to focus on coaching efforts first, but we will progress that if needed. But in the beginning, that was a challenge because it was new, but anymore, we rarely run into a situation where it's more often with our current system, it's more often a battery issue where it just runs out.
Okay. And then I had one more that I can't find, so you're good.
Okay.
So I was interested in so I think came up about license plate readers. So all the data that you're collecting is internal for your department use, but ultimately it's iterable, right? So, but it's not like real time. So I think that was one of the concerns about sharing information on license plates and who was driving around with external agencies. But that could happen anyway, regardless of the system. So if you had a license plate or some data, that's not restricted from IPRA. That's all something that somebody could say, I want to know all the plates that were stopped in the last month. Is that something that somebody can request?
If they request, the chair, Righty, if the request was, I want to know all of the license plates that were stopped, yeah, we could fill that.
Yeah. Okay. So that's something they could get anyway, because I think there were some concerns about more real-time sharing of data, but that's not something that you would be doing anyway, because you'd have to get the request, somebody has to go look at it. Um, so let's see, I guess so. So you talked about the AI. So the AI tool is really to help with, like you mentioned, the redactions and going through the video. That's again for mainly for IPRA, but is it for other purposes too? Is there some reason you're using AI tools? Is it like what you said about Ring cameras, that you get external data and you're trying to identify somebody, and all this data can make a composite and identify the person of interest? Is that what you're talking about with AI tools? I'm just trying to get my head around what you're talking about with the AI tools.
Well, there's Chair Righty, there's several. So with search, for example, we upload our policy into the system, and although the employees have access to it anyway, this is just, it's a one-stop shop, and it's an easier platform. But if they have a policy issue, they would just type that word into the system, and it brings up the relevant policy. I suppose you could, again, have the same functionality with even Word, but with 800 pages of policy, I think this will help streamline that a little bit. With automation, that can help with report writing, can help the officers actually write the report, which is the IA gets from the video. It's really pretty neat. Of course, that's not a 100% thing. The officers still have to go through it and ensure that what the AI wrote is accurate. And so and some officers may not choose to use that, but depending on the type of case or how long the video was, and I could see some definite value in terms of that. Transcription, if we interview somebody, for example, and want that interview transcribed for court purposes, currently we pay a vendor for that. The AI system would produce that transcription for us in-house. And again, you'd have to go through to make sure it was accurate, but that would be a cost savings for us. Again, the translation issue is AI based. If you speak a different language, we can communicate. The camera will translate what I'm saying to you and what you're saying to me back. And again, it recognizes over 100 different languages. That to us is huge from a safety perspective. And then probably the biggest cost savings is going to be in the redaction area. And on video, you simply tell it what you want redacted, and it'll redact it for you and produce it. Again, you still have to go through and make sure. An example I would use in that, let's say we have a scene that has both adults and juveniles, and I hit face, so I want all the faces blacked out. It'll go through and do that, but the adults, there is no restriction for that. So, but I can easily go through each one of those. It'll produce the entire volume, and I just go through and check mark. It's just a huge savings from what we're doing right now. And these IPRAs are just extremely intensive in terms of the staff time it takes. So we anticipate, again, it's hard to quantify like some of the dollar amounts that I was able to quantify in the staff report, but we anticipate significant savings in terms of efficiency and staff time.
Okay, great. Okay.
I remember my question.
Okay. Go ahead, Councilor Newman.
Thank you. Two more questions. So one is, we know that if the equipment, we know that we've got a cost savings because of the bulk or the bundle that we
Yes,
purchased. However, if we do decide to break this 10-year contract, then that 1.8 is going to be rolled back in, correct?
So the cost, let's say, is about 550,000 a year, but out of that we can reduce the cost that we're currently paying for redaction, transcription, our current watch guard contracts with body worn camera and LPR. And then we also can, Counselor or Chair Ridey, you had a question last time about reimbursement for the hardware. Yes, we can do that. So that's another 45,000 that will be reduced. So it's not a complete wash in terms of dollars, but you add the dollars in with the efficiencies and the safety and the transparency and the ability to communicate with the citizens and the safety part of it. It's a win.
So I understand that it's a win when we look at them separately and collectively once we put them together, it makes sense. So we know that for the company, if we break the contract, they're going to get, I don't know, what is it, 1.8. But what do we get if the equipment does not perform as advertised? I mean, what if, I don't know, instead of speaking Spanish, it translates to Thai and it's a known glitch on their side, or if there's something about this software as well as hardware that does not perform to the standard that we expect, what do we get?
Daryl, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the contract is pretty solid in that regard, and that if you know the functionality does not present as advertised, that they'll make it right. You know, it's always hard when you transition to a new and larger platform because you don't know everything and how it's going to, you know, how much time are we actually going to save on redaction? We know we're going to save it because common sense tells us that, but how do you quantify that? But one of the key indicators for us on this was the amount of departments that are transitioning to this company, just because it's what they're doing in law enforcement is amazing. And here in New Mexico, there's quite a few. And just off the top of my head, Artesia, Bernalillo County, Santa Fe PD. I mean, there's several, but I've never heard anything like that something broke and they wouldn't fix it, or I've never even heard that it broke to begin with. But we're very confident in this company and their customer service.
Okay. Final question regarding the redaction. I noticed that the example you gave involved images. Quick question, is the redaction also applicable to language and particularly specific words, or is it just images?
Chair Ridey, Councilor Neil Clinton, is the redaction just words or images? Is that the question?
Yes, because you stated that
both.
in the scenario, there are adults and children, you're able to remove the children.
Yes.
The question then is it just applicable to images, or are words, can language be removed as well? And if it is removed, is there a way to have the before and the after?
It can be removed, and how you do that is you just type in the text that you want removed. So for example, if it's birth dates, you tell it that. Now again, you still have to go through it when it's done to make sure that it did what it said it was supposed to. We would always, just like we do now, we always have the original copy, and then we have the redacted copy. And then the redaction, if redactions are required, we're required to say why that was redacted. So that's not going to change. It's just that how we get that product is going to be much more efficient. And just by way of example as well, on the transcription, on the translation software, if we have that transcribed, it'll, let's say I'm speaking to somebody that's speaking Russian. It'll transcribe what they said in Russian, and then it'll translate that in English, and then it'll say what I said in English, and then what I said in Russian. So you'll get that transcript so that you know that what they said, you could show that what they said was transcribed appropriately. So I would assume that the redaction piece is the same.
Okay.
And one more thing on customer service. We've already have contract with this company on Taser and never had an issue with their customer service. So we're confident moving forward that wouldn't be a problem with this company.
Okay. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Councilman England. Thank you, Chief. I think I don't see any other questions. So let's see if there's any public comment.
Sure. Online there is.
Okay, so let's, please.
Brittany, you should be able to unmute. Please state your full name and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Hi, this is Brittany St. Jacques again. I was just wondering, what are the user restrictions on redacting the videos and transcriptions? And can those abilities be restricted so that it's not broadly usable? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the question. So Chief, can you just go ahead and answer the question, please?
How that is determined is by the statute. So the statute governs what type of information is releasable and what type of information is not. And then again, any redaction requires an explanation by the governing agency as to why that particular item was redacted, under what authority. Anything else to add to that, Alvin?
Chair and council, yeah, I believe the caller is asking why are these things being redacted? It is only for IPRA purposes. The original recording needs to stay intact, because if they ever have to introduce this in court as evidence or something, they have to bring the original.
Mm-hmm.
So the original will always, or should always, exist with the police department. However, when the public asks for these videos may contain protected health information that needs to be redacted. It may contain identities of children that need to be redacted, depending on crimes. It may have people who haven't been charged with crimes and things like that. And all of this is controlled by the state law that dictates what we can and cannot, or we're supposed to release to the public. And the redactions generally go to privacy concerns of individuals, like health information, or the protections of juveniles in sensitive situations, or certain home addresses and things like that. So we were following the IPRA law when we make our redactions.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Okay, so I think we're ready to, have a counselor interested in making a motion? Counselor Cole?
I move that council approve the agreement number AGR 26-858 between the Incorporated County of Los Alamos and Axon Enterprise Incorporated for the purchase of public safety video systems, related devices, software, and services in an amount not to exceed $6,826,839.59 for a 10-year term.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'll second.
Okay, so I heard, I think Councilor Rieger. So motion by Councilor Cole, second by Councilor Rieger. Is there any discussion? Not seeing any. Can you please call the roll?
Counselor Hand.
Yes.
Counselor
Yes.
Brady.
Yes.
Counselor Cole.
Yes.
Counselor Neil Clinton.
Yes.
Counselor Rieger.
Yes.
Counselor Haveman.
Yes.
Counselor Herman.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, let the record show the motion passed unanimously. So Thank you for that last item. So now we're on to item 10, council
Thank you.
business.
Thank you.
10A is general council business 120990-26, board and commission liaison and council working group assignments. So there's no, I think, presentation on this. And so counselors should be all aware, since I gave you a preview copy. Is there any issues or questions?
There's a little thing in there that under working groups, I did not unvolunteer for line S, which is New Mexico counties. I just couldn't go to the meeting last week, but I did New Mexico counties last year. I'll do it again.
Okay, I think that was just we just elect one person to the board, but yeah, you can still go. We still have other counselors attend the meetings. So we can either amend that or not, I guess.
Oh, so that's the board member to New Mexico counties?
That's the board member. That's the intention of that role. But yeah, there's still, I don't know if there's a separate row for just attending. I don't think there is.
Councilor Rieger, wasn't that NACO that you attended last year?
That's a separate line.
There's another row for NACO. So
you did both last year?
That's Q on the chart.
Right.
And I did both last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not on the board of New Mexico counties.
So we'll look into amending the rows so that it allows for counselors to go. So I'll work with staff to get that revised. So I guess we'll have to attach that to the minutes or something, or we'll just send it back out to everybody. Okay. Any other questions, comments? Okay. Let's see. 10B is appointments, which we did under consent. We don't have 10C, the vacancy report this meeting. Do we have, so we're almost at 10 o'clock. So we can certainly have any board and commission reports that councilors want to share tonight. If there's anything particularly they need to let, otherwise we can just catch up with that the next, because I think we're meeting next week, right? There's a meeting next week. So I think there's a little bit more time on that one maybe. Let's see, then we can go to county manager's report. So I guess I have to announce it formally. E is county manager's report. 1 is 20039-26, county manager's report for December 2025. So Ms. Laurent, did you want to highlight some items?
Yes, thank you, Chair and Council. December, we only had 2 meetings, so it went quickly. There is continued conversation about the hexavalent chromium plume and the fact that the extraction efforts have been stopped again. And so there's increased interest in conversations with both the Pueblo de San Ildefonso, DOEEM, NMED, and there's definitely a group interest to want to figure out a way to restart the interim measure. The North Mesa housing project on the middle school, the infrastructure impact analysis is completed. Housing manager Dan Osborne is going to be presenting that to the public schools, and then we're going to get some feedback from the school board, their school board meeting in November, as to how they'd like to proceed on potentially on that development. We are actively working on at least 2 Lita retail applications. We're getting close to a third being resubmitted. So those are, we're actively working on those. And we did receive 1 full Lita application for another project. And we are working to schedule that with our advisory council advisory, how do you say your contracted counsel? Outside counsel, maybe that's the word, outside counsel that advise us on a big Lita like that. We're also have been meeting with our new contracted for the comprehensive plan. And so we plan on being back in front of council in February to kind of highlight what that process is going to be in that outreach. But there have been some meetings with individuals and groups that we know have interest in being part of that process. And we, in a couple days from now, on Thursday, there's going to be a tourism debrief from the tourism season last year with everyone from the museum leadership to the visitor center, LACDC to the national parks to do a debrief on kind of how last year went and what we are looking for going into this season. City's Work has reached out to our Economic Development Director, Eli Isaacson, and requested a meeting on January 30th on Friday. Assuming that happens and we do get a report, we will quickly put that on a council agenda in February to share it with you all. Also starting next month, we've opened up in our training software that tracks all of our training. Our training manager has opened up our customer service module, and so everyone can sign up for that for starting in February. And the goal is to have every county staff through it by the end of June. Just a few weeks ago, the MRA applications were put online. We will modify our handbook to reflect the request of the public meeting prior to the introduction of ordinance. And I just want to remind everyone that February 22nd, our aquatic center, our Olympic pool and therapy pool are going to be closing for that big maintenance project. And so we are working on an alternative for the warmer months, but we will go a few months without that kind of facility. But the Leisure Lagoon will remain open. So that is that you'll see some more press releasing on that. But with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Lant. Do we have any questions? Okay.
This is kind of a request. Can we get an overview of the tourism working group at a future council work session?
Ms. Madison's nodding yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's see. There's a very long list of things that have been happening. So I appreciate was giving already the Hexagon and Chromium workshop. I think that was one of the things I wanted to highlight. Yeah, I actually attended, so I think it's mainly been staff meeting with the Pueblo de San Ildefonso monthly. And so I went in December and then I went this month. And that's been a subject of conversation with the Pueblo as well. So I have, asked about when we'll have maybe more information for council, and I think we've tentatively decided on maybe May we'll have some more information to share. And that helps also get information out to the public. Let's see. Another thing was actually turned out pretty well. So at the Mexico counties meetings last week, I had asked for time to have a workshop on nuclear energy, and it actually turned out to be fairly well attended. Although after tonight's meeting, I think we probably beat that by a few people here, but it was 54 people, I think, at the workshop. So so that was good. So there's a lot of interest in that. So that's something that we're still working on through ECA. We also had a Zoom meeting with NMBD Secretary Kenny, as well as several of his staff regarding WIP. We had the legislative dinner. Representative Chandler was there, and the staff for Representative Gonzalez were present too. And then the public schools presented their requests, and we gave a really brief overview of ours. And so I think that was a productive discussion. Yeah, there's a number of other things. So it's kind of the regular monthly or weekly meetings. Let's see. Oh, it was, I hadn't actually been to the Pueblo de San Alfonso feast day, but we went there and went with Ms. Madison, and that was a really excellent experience and very interesting to see that in action after all these years. And and then I guess the last thing I wanted to remember was one of the things I learned, I guess, was that the chair of the county council can request that a planning and zoning case get remanded back to the Planning and Zoning Commission if the applicant and the county staff agree that it would be worthwhile doing that. So we had a case where I think there were two cases. Is that correct? There were two cases that failed, in my argue, because there weren't sufficient people present. They had a positive vote, but it was like 3-2. So that was a new one. I didn't realize that we could do that. So we'll see what happens. It may still fail or come back to council for appeal, but that may save us the having an official hearing, a quasi judicial hearing at council, as opposed to letting planning and zoning take care of that. So that was something I just learned today. So you always learn something every day. So I'm going to plan to, I'll give some oral reports when they're on the agenda, but I'm also going to write some mini ones along the year. So that I liked your approach of the like what that we do. So I'll try to give little updates like every couple of months written, and that way the state of the county message will have written itself by the end of the year. That's my plan anyway. We'll see what happens. Okay, so item G is approval of counselor expenses. Do we have any counselor expenses or travel that need to be approved? Not seeing any. Okay, preview of upcoming agenda items. So we have the tickler attached, and we're going to put in the tourism onto the work session. So we'll make a note of that and follow up with that at the agenda setting meeting. Is there anything else anyone wants to highlight coming up? No. I think we're almost to the end. I believe the next item is counselor comments. Yes, it is. Do we have any counselor comments? Not seeing any comments. So unless anyone is opposed, we are adjourned.